everyone, and welcome back to We Bought a Mic for part 2 of our best movies of 2022. Best films. Our top favorite cinematic films.
Do you think that we'll ever make a podcast under 4 hours ever again?
It is Listomania, so we are in the darkness. We cannot see the forest. Yeah.
Do you remember, Ernie? You used to be like, guys, we gotta move on.
We gotta wrap it up.
We gotta go through here. And now I like that we've just gone the other direction. It's like,
yeah. Well, it's Danny.
Listen.
Danny corrupted us.
Yeah, Danny did. Danny's like,
there's no turning back.
As we're sipping our sparkling rosés in a can.
That can't be it. I don't think that's it.
Welcome to the show. My name's Ernest.
My name is Huntar.
Ooh.
Oh. Say freaking what?
A chicka what?
And I am scanning for
oh my god, Drew, are you a techno sapien?
Rakadruni? No.
Amazing.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right, saved it.
The Drew of Water. So, part 1, we did our 10 through 6.
Should we run through our 10 through 6 so far?
The Batman, Banshees of Inisherin, Babylon, Tar, and Avatar: The Way of Water. Hunters 10 through 6, Glass Onion, Marcella Shell with Shoes On, The Fabelmans, Tar, and After Yang. And Drew's 10 through 6, Barbarian, incredible, Dirty Titty, and Jackass Forever, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Batman, and Top Gun Maverick. So that was part 1. Now we're in part 2, 5 through 1.
Okay.
Shall we get into it?
May I?
Number 5.
Dare you?
Is it Fabelman's time?
It is also my number 5.
Hey.
Cool. Let's talk about it.
You had it at number 8.
Yeah.
I just watched it. I love it.
I think this is a very special movie.
I think it is one of my 5 favorite Spielberg movies I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
Wow. It got in the top 5. Holy shit. That's no joke.
You've seen like all the big classics, right?
Have you seen Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Have you seen
E.T., Close Encounters, Jaws?
My number 1 is always going to be Jaws.
Yeah.
That's one of my 5 favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
I've seen my fair share. I mean, Ready Player One, of course.
Of course.
The Post.
Yeah. So Ready Player One's number 1.
Yeah.
Ready Player 2, saving that spot for number 2.
Gotta keep that saved.
The Fabelmans is it's different subject matter than he deals with, while still being the exact same subject matter that he deals with all the time, which is like aging and weird family relationships and anxiety. But it deals in specificity better because it is based on his life. It's actually, at the end of the day, while it has all of its sappiness and all of its like Spielbergisms, it is more revealing than I thought it might be.
Very. I think it recontextualizes a lot of his work in a way that makes it feel a lot more melancholy, a lot sadder. Like
there's literally a part where the bully comes up to him and says, "You'll never make E.T. extraterrestrial."
Well, that's the thing. It's easy to roll your eyes at a lot of lines that are super on the button, and that's fine.
He's Steven Spielberg. He is the button.
If anybody
he invented the button.
That's the thing, is that if anybody is allowed to make one of these like legacy story of my life movies this year, and baby, we got a lot of them. If anybody is entitled to do that, it's fucking Steven Spielberg.
I want to know. I want to know. I want to hear the Spielberg version of Spielberg. Like, that's cool as fuck.
And to do it in a way that's so like that has like this sadness through it, this like
like profound
this tragedy.
You could not pry the story of like my dad being cucked by his own best friend. If that happened to my family, you could not get that out of me. Like, you could waterboard me and I would not tell you that.
That
is crazy.
That's why there's so much about this movie that like he had to wait until his parents passed to actually tell the story, because like you can tell why, because it's not overtly negative to either one parents. I think it actually does a pretty good job of balancing, of saying like, I am a product of both my mom and my dad. I would not be who I am if I didn't have both of them in my lives. But also, It gets very personal into his family and shows all the warts of it, while meanwhile being really fucking entertaining.
Yeah,
entertaining.
It's a really funny.
At one point in the movie, it just becomes like a high school drama or like a high school comedy, like a fucking John Hughes movie for like half an hour. And I'm like, cool, this rocks. Yeah, Spielberg, let's do it. Come on, baby. Let me see Sammy Fabelman getting bullied at school.
This fucking kid,
Gabriel LaBelle.
wow,
so good.
I
so
love
good.
him. He's so
I don't know why he's not
I don't
getting-
know how many roles he's gonna get.
Well, I don't know.
He better be a star.
But he's just he's this tiny little guy.
But I think, I feel like this was a really great year for Best Actor, because I think that if this was a year like 2015, I'm thinking about 2015 where, what's the kid from Room who snuck in?
Tremblay.
Yeah, Tremblay. And there's been a couple times where there have been like child breakthrough performances that have broken through. If this was a weaker year, then I think we could hear the Gabriel LaBelle Best Actor, because he's so good.
Well,
and man, especially his haircut that he has at the end of this movie, he just becomes
They
Spielberg.
give him the Spielberg wig.
Yeah,
I clapped when I saw the Spielberg wig.
It's so good.
It's perfect casting. He's incredible. He's dynamic across the years because he has a high pitched voice naturally, so it makes sense. I don't know, you know what I mean? As he ages, if anything, something else that might get in the way of him winning awards is that like the entire movie is chock full of performances. Like the performances
Michelle
are
Williams.
just across the board. Like I at least was a huge fan of I loved what Michelle Williams was doing.
It's a big performance,
Yeah,
and
very big.
This was a big point of contention when we first saw it, as to like, is it too big, right? And I think that you kind of budge against it a little bit, but there's two things working in the favor of what she's doing. One, you can clearly tell that she has some kind of like manic depressive, some kind of like mental disorder.
Yeah, there are people who were like that, especially back in the day. Like there are people who are way too much.
Yeah.
Have you met someone with BPD before?
Exactly. I mean, this is like the 50s, 60s. Like this is an undiagnosed like disorder. And, nowadays we have all kinds of like terms and treatments for it.
Yeah.
Back then they just didn't.
And also, I don't know. I think it's like, it's disrespectful to her to be criticizing what she's doing here when the man behind the camera is the kid whose mom
that's
is.
That's the other thing I was going to say.
Do you think that she's too big a star for Steven Spielberg to like tone it down? No.
Well, also
that's insane.
He wants to give his mom the movie star role. Like he loves his mom, and part of the process of making this movie is like, I want to cope through my trauma. Like he has talked about how this is his form of therapy by acknowledging his mother's humanity, right? And he's talked about how like for years he blamed her. He blamed her for the disillusion of the family and the marriage, and he didn't understand like how she might have felt as a person and not just as a mother.
That I think is what elevated this movie beyond what I thought it would be. I thought it would be like a fringe on my list type of movie where it's like, oh, that was nice, that was sweet and sappy and interesting. The family dynamics are like complicated.
Yeah,
they're very complex in this movie. Every character feels differently about everyone else at different points in the movie. Like they're particularly like little Sammy Fabelman, of course, like he has polar opposite opinions of his own parents, like, within months of each other. That's not something you typically see in a movie. But that is how it works to be a teenager with an unstable home. Like it's really well done.
Yeah. I mean, I do really love what Michelle Williams is doing in this movie, despite kind of how putting this thing in a negative light. But whenever I say like Oscar baity, because it is so big, it's so over the top. But I'm thinking of like something that is an Oscar bait type moment, but it just shows the beauty and kind of how sensitive of a portrait Steven Spielberg is trying to make here for his mom, where wherever she's dancing at the campfire with the lights shining on her. It's like she's having this moment to actually express her this artistic side of her that otherwise she's kind of had to repress down.
Yes.
Because, I mean, this is a different time in which if you're a woman, you're kind of just going to be a mom at a certain point, especially in this kind of family.
Wife
like,
and a mom, and that's it.
Like where Paul Dano is this incredible engineer. He worked for RCA, and then he worked for IBM, and now he's working for, like, he's kind of just moving up and up.
The most swagless man who's ever lived.
But I will say,
he's so lame.
even
He has
after
a pocket protector.
After watching this a second
He's so
time
uncool.
this past week, Paul Dano is like the low-key MVP of this movie. Everything that he's doing in this is so perfectly calculated.
It balances the seesaw.
Yeah, like he is just, and there's so much of what Spielberg is trying to say in here about like what his dad meant to him and how that influenced his life.
The science brain.
Yeah, it's the engineer brain of that. How did you make it so that it looked like the guns were actually shooting? I took little pinpricks and I poked holes in the film.
So good.
That's like such a genius thing that no fucking like 13-year-old kid would think about. And like
that's a common element across like several like highly successful people's stories is they had a dad who, even if they weren't very involved, they liked telling their kid how things worked. Mm-hmm. Jerry Seinfeld's dad, every night before Jerry went to bed, he would tell Jerry how one thing worked in that exact same way.
Yeah.
Like, it's a type of curiosity that like,
it's the combo. It's the creative and the technical.
Yeah. It just gets you thinking about like in practicality, you know, in a different way. And then, combined with like the wannabe artist mom, it's perfect.
There's also a lot to this movie because you can kind of feel it in the movie itself. And I think it's like Spielberg kind of wrestling with not only his own memories, but how he reacted to it,
the feeling.
to the divorce, in which his dad kind of took the blame. His dad was just like, I don't want you to be seen as the bad guy. Like, I'm fine. Like, the kids will come they'll live with you. I'm fine to just be like, I have to stay here for my work.
Kids, I'm sorry. I simply don't have any riz.
Well, he also didn't want a swagged out, like, just drip daddy just taking over the whole joint.
Yeah, you know what? Seth Rogen's Benny coming up in there and just popping little jokes. No, but like, if you look at early Spielberg, it's big child of divorce, and a lot of it is like very angry towards the dad's characters. The dads are just like, they are willing to fucking leave you. They're willing to drop you if that means going for work. Close Encounters is the easiest example.
He goes with the aliens.
He just abandons his family. That's how Close Encounters, one of Spielberg's masterpieces, ends. And I think that this is almost kind of looking back at that, and it's giving Paul Dano is giving his dad like this opportunity to express like, I'm willing to be the fall guy because I love your mom. I love this family. And I would rather just like it's not full like savior complex because he's not portraying it in a way that's like out of selfish intents. But yeah, it's exactly. It's that whole like fixer engineer brain coming in mind of like, this is cleaner for everybody if I just do this.
Yeah. Speaking of, someone that a scene or two that get sort of drowned out in the mix because if we're talking like little side characters, everyone's going to want to talk about David Lynch, obviously. Coming in at the end is John Ford.
Yes, so good.
I want to talk about Judd Hirsch.
Oh,
it'll tear you apart.
He's gonna get an Oscar nom
because it's that, you know, his scenes have been discounted as like too heavily just stating themes, which is valid.
Well, that's one of the few things that's not based on a real thing. Like there was an uncle, a crazy like kind of kooky Jewish uncle. That's a real thing. But that conversation,
of
that
course.
didn't happen.
And it's also it is even for this movie, it is heavy-handedly very clearly stating things that could be left unsaid. However, those are not reasons to discount the fact that Judd Hirsch is coming in on fucking fire.
Yeah. So,
like he's fucking cooking.
Especially because it's at a point in the movie where it does hit a little bit of a lull. It does kind of reach just a little bit of a like, now the grandma's dead. And
it's like, it's like boohoo. I don't really care about her.
Here, and then and then Judd Hirsch just comes in here. He's like, I used to stick my head in lions' mouths. So and you're like, oh, okay, that's this guy's
energy.
And
also in all of those like maybe contrite lines about, you know, art, there are some really, really fun, like interesting takes that he's got. Like you know, when he's like, no, me putting my mouth in, or my head in the lion's mouth, that was balls. Me keeping the lion from closing its mouth, that was art.
Yeah.
like those are really cool lines. Like I don't know. There's a lot that you could discount if you want to be judgmental about the sappiness and the rottenness of the movie.
It all ties together because there are certain moments of just pure magic in this movie, like the end of this movie, the whole moment with the bullies in the hallway. That moment isn't magical on its own. It's magical because of the entire movie that led up to it. Because you've been set up to expect that kind of home run, hit it out of the park like that. It's because of moments like the Judd Hirsch scene where he's talking about like his experience with kind of giving himself over to the art form. That is a setup to the payoff of Sammy Fabelman talking about like how he doesn't know why he made this bully look like a movie star. It just happened.
Yeah.
He just does this. He just points the camera and he has a talent that he can't articulate and he can't explain exactly why it is. It just is.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know.
And this movie is full of connections like that. Like the very beginning of the movie where little baby Sammy is making the trains crash into each other, and the mom gives him the camera and it's their little secret.
Yeah, and
then that connects to the big secret that kind of the movie all hinges on.
And that's the earliest like theme stating line is Michelle Williams saying, "Oh, he needs to make them crash because then he can control it."
Because he's afraid.
Yeah,
exactly.
Imagine like can you guys think of a movie you went to as a kid and it just scared the shit out of you?
I will say, no, not specifically that, but the fact that Steven Spielberg became Steven Spielberg because of Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth, a movie that sucks.
And it traumatized
It's a bad movie. It's like a movie that's just an ad for the circus. It's like not a real movie at all. Bad. And I'm like, oh, well, I made Spielberg out of it. So I guess that's the best thing to ever come from this movie.
And then also included like subtly in the movie are like, sort of like the outlier style story of like, well, how many kids in the 50s like could have genuinely had access to a Super 8 camera? Like not a ton.
Yeah.
And that, and how many could be encouraged by one parent and then facilitated by the other.
Well, if you're uncle, you got a cool uncle, buy it for you.
Sick uncle. Yeah.
My uncle who's fucking my mom.
Hey, they were mentally fucking. They were spiritually fucking.
Yeah, they were. It was emotional cheating. Emotional cheating is still cheating.
It's kind of worse. This is something I was talking to my parents about because like I showed them this movie and like that was one thing that they were talking about is like the whole idea of like an emotional affair versus a physical affair. Like that's something that I wasn't thinking about because they were like, yeah, it's like once you're married to someone for that long, it's like worse. To be in love with someone else than just to fuck them.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, that's so much worse.
And she tries to, when
I mean,
one of my favorite scenes is when they're moving and Paul Dano's like, I just remembered I had the funniest dream last night. I punched Benny right in the face. And she gets out of the car, and she's like having her like hysterical thing. And then like, and Sammy gets out and she's like, I swear, son, I never gave him sloppy. And it's like, cool. Like, that's not going to make him feel better.
Sammy's just like burdened with this like horrible situation. He's like, God damn it.
Yeah,
what did I get myself
she's like, I swear, son, it was over the pants, all of it. I don't know.
The bra stayed halfway on.
It just the nuance, genuinely like the nuance of like the affair and how Sammy feels about it really made the movie for me. Like
it's the crux of the entire story.
I don't know. And the fact that people are reacting so allergically to the sappiness of it, that just makes me think that if like Spielberg were to have his career today, like he would not be as well received because like that's what he's been this whole time, man.
Yeah, I mean,
like he does sappy.
Well,
he does that.
Awards voters probably expected something like more straightforward. Like I feel like this movie would have done better if it was just kind of
if it was the
platter.
fucking Empire of Light version of this. If it was just like, God, our fucking movies. Great.
I know, but
like this movie, I think that this is special because
it's a little more complicated.
Well, it feels like a Spielberg movie. It doesn't feel like a guy who's like, let me tell you about my life. My life was a little bit different being a projectionist at the theater, okay? Like, this is actually, it still feels like a movie. I
saw a shark, and it was scary.
Like, this movie could still, it could still exist on its own without knowing all of the other stuff.
Yeah, it just, I don't know.
I think that, I mean, you mentioned that awards people aren't vibing with this. I think awards people are going to vibe with this. I think that this actually low key.
It's not doing what it needs to do to win.
I think that I don't know.
Falling behind, but
it's picking up momentum again. I think the Golden Globes wins.
Yeah, Spielberg's speech was amazing.
I think it's now becoming a 2-horse race between this and a movie that we're all going to talk about.
We're days out from the Oscar noms. So
I would be more than happy if this movie won like anything. Like it's a special great movie. It has nuance and it has like the general Spielberg feel. It's unbelievably shot for how small so much of it is.
Yeah.
Like
it's a lot of vignettes, you know. You got the monkey, you got the Christian girlfriend. Like you just have all these little moments.
Man, what is her name? She's awesome. So good. It's just again, that's like the part
Jesus, he would look a little bit like
where it's just like, I think Jesus is sexy. Just this girl who just wants to fuck Jesus. Like that's so good. And it's just when this movie just takes a big turn where this movie has a lot of fun. It's really funny.
It's great.
It's really
exactly.
light.
It's a fucking movie, man. Like I don't know. Before this is, this is going to sound stupid because I'm extremely judgmental and cynical, but before that took over the discourse, like this movie would have just cleaned up. Like, it's so good.
I did want to ask you guys something. This is a take I saw floating around that has kind of stuck with me. And it's going back to the ending with the bullies, which is a scene that I think is going to be kind of picked apart forever because there's so much in that. Like, unless I make a movie about it, like that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, guess what? That rocks. Fuck you. Fuck everyone.
I clapped in the theaters whenever I saw that. I was like, this rocks.
Fuck everyone.
The whole idea of like the overtly anti-Semitic bully being attacked by the not so anti-Semitic bully is. And there's no way that Spielberg like actually intended this, but there's a read of this being a meta take on like that era of Hollywood, of like McCarthy era Hollywood, and how a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood created movie stars, like big movie stars like Audrey Hepburn and Paul Newman, to stand as a buffer in between them and the Nazis.
I think that could, not in so many words, but I think that's very much a part of like what he's trying to say there. Like the jock kid who gets, heroified in his film is a representative of what of what movie stars were in the film industry to Jewish filmmakers. I think that's definitely like a valid take.
I mean, I can see a little bit of that. I more so read that as like when not to go like full like tortured artist, but like also a little bit of that where like Spielberg is like, I don't fucking know, man. I wish that I didn't point the camera at you. I wish that I could point at anybody else. But like,
I don't fucking know.
The camera just gravitated towards you. Like, I don't know what to do with it. It's like if we're making a movie right now and like maybe not now because we're adults and but if we were like kids in school, I don't think that we would just like look at like some like jockey dudes and just be like who like we fucking hated and just be like, I'm gonna make my movie kind of about this guy. Like it takes a special guy to kind of put everything else, all of your own personal shit behind you and just be like, I just want to make the best thing that there is, regardless of any personal tiff that I have.
People are going to react if they see this guy succeed, not me.
And that's what being a director is. Like, do you think that every director loves movie stars they work with on set? Like, absolutely the fuck not. Works. But you just know whenever you see a movie star, I mean, there's less and less of those these days, but like whenever like back in the day you would see a movie star and get them on camera, it's like, I just need to gravitate with this person and just follow them, and they're going to lead
like magnets,
everything through here.
Just drawn to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
This movie owns
There's
so
been
hard.
some bad takes on this movie, and I think that sometimes people should go outside and touch grass.
I did want to mention one last thing. The moment where he like envisions himself filming his own life.
Oh my God. No, of the divorce.
Yeah.
That
is a transcendent.
Shot, honestly, might be like my single favorite shot of the year of just like,
Spielberg never does that. He never gives us like a incredibly like weird, like kind of almost almost surreal moment like that. And all that's doing is letting
connecting back to the Judd Hirsch thing of family versus art.
Yeah, like you love this thing more than you love.
I'm telling you, this movie could be higher on my list.
Yeah, I have it at 8, and it could be higher.
It has the magic. Like it has it.
Mm-hmm.
It has that Spielberg riz. I can't wait till next year when that word like doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, people are listening back to this. I can't wait. Like, if we're really leading to a 2-horse race between the Fabelmans and Everything Everywhere for Best Picture, then this rocks. We've won movies this year. We did a good job.
I'm telling you, Banshees is also in there, based on the stats.
I hope not.
Please read the stats. Yeah, I'd be happy with it. Like, this movie is not The Shape of Water.
No,
it is better than that.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so much more complicated.
And that's a good movie, but this is like a great like top tier movie. My top, I was going to say my top forward tier, but this is in there. Like, this is a really good movie.
Yeah. The fact that like Spielberg is letting us know that like in his youth, a camera was just like a coping mechanism for like the saddest shit you could possibly imagine for, a white suburban kid. Like he's,
the worst existence you could have is your dad getting cooked by Seth Rogen. And it's not close.
The Fabelmans is Drew's 5, my 5, and Hunter's 8. Hunter, number 5.
My number 5 is, we sat here and we sang plaudits about like how great this guy fucking Steven Spielberg is. And yeah, sure, he's pretty good. But there's one guy who I am here to drive the fucking best director hype train for, and that man is Park Chan-wook, and the film is Decision to Leave.
Okay, pop off.
That's right. Number 5. This movie is basically like, what if you were to make a 1940s Humphrey Bogart, like a hard-boiled noir like crime mystery in 2022.
It's Hitchcockian too.
Yes, a lot of Hitchcock in here. It's just absolutely a masterpiece. Like, coming away from it, I watched this a second time this past week, and this was it's been floating in my top 10 since I watched it. I really loved it, but especially after seeing this a second time, everything that Park is doing in this movie, and the way that he is moving the camera and having the actors move with the camera, it's almost Spike Lee-ish with some of the stuff that he's doing here, where there will be sequences where this detective will be watching this woman and looking at her through binoculars, and suddenly he's in the same room with her. It's so incredibly well shot. Basic premise of this is that this detective, Park Hae-il, is that's the name of the actor. The detective's name is Jung, I want to say. I can't remember. But this detective works in Seoul and is investigating the murder this death of a man who fell off a mountainside, and just kind of looking into it. Was there any kind of foul play here?
Was it even a murder?
Yeah. Was it a suicide? What happened here? And they bring in for questioning the man's wife, played by Tong Wei, in one of the best performances of the year, who is a Chinese woman who moved to Korea, met this man, they got married, and it kind of sets off from there. It becomes a little bit of love story between this detective and this suspect here, and
very Heat-esque.
Yes, it's Heat, but like, what if they what if Al Pacino was talked to sleep by Robert De Niro? Mm-hmm. That was the only way that he could actually sleep, was with the voice of Robert De Niro coming through. I think that the first half of this is kind of what I'm describing here, of this kind of like little bit of cat and mouse, but the cat and the mouse are becoming closer and closer. And then there's a big explosive event that happens at the exact halfway point of this movie. And this movie is split expertly into like a part 1 and a part 2. In the second half of this movie, those dynamics completely flip on each other. And I don't want to spoil this movie because I think everybody should watch this. I don't want to promote making a service free trial and then canceling it, but this is available to stream on Mubi right now. It's a Mubi film, Mubi. And
it's not Tubi.
It's not Tubi.
It's Mubi.
It's Mubi.
That's the tagline.
There actually is some good films on Mubi. I might keep my subscription going at least for a month or two to watch some of these, but
don't do that.
We'll see. Might be some good.
Maybe if it was a Tubi.
If it was a Tubi, then maybe. Maybe Tubi and Mubi can have a merger.
To Mubi.
Matubi. I just think that if you are a fan of any kind of like crime, noir, if you're a fan of the Batman, check out
detective mystery.
Yeah. This has that kind of classic feel to it. It's not, whenever I say like 40s Humphrey Bogart, Hitchcockian, it might sound like it's very slow to some people, and it's patient more than it's slow.
Yeah.
There's not a single moment in this movie where it drags. In fact, every time that it starts to feel like it's going to drag, Park is doing stuff with the camera and doing something with the storytelling that is just, some of the sweeping zooms that he gets are just fucking unbelievable. They are so good.
The whole ending sequence by the ocean.
Oh my God.
Blew my mind.
Devastating.
I was like, at a certain point, I was like, there's no way he got these shots for real. Like, these are too perfect. Like, the framing with the sun and the water and the sand, like, you cannot possibly get this perfect framing.
Well, he also does some stuff, like, there's some, like, sequences while, like a character will be driving, and some of the shots that he gets, that's just like, what if, it's like reminiscent of Michael Bay ambulance drone shots, but like, what if it done good? No shouts to Michael Bay in Ambulance, which is a great film, but, well, it's a film, I should say. But this, just some of the transitions that he gets, the editing in this is fucking unbelievable. It's so good. It's number 5 on my list for a reason, that I'm ready. Park Chan-wook for Best Director, at least a nomination.
It might happen.
I am so all in on this. There's been a big push with international voters the last few years. I'm worried about that. I'm worried that just not enough people are going to see this movie. This is the guy who made fucking Old Boy, dude. Like, this is the guy. He made Old Boy. He made The Handmaiden a few years ago. Like, he is a director who is respected.
Yeah.
Ernie, you've seen this movie. What did you think about this?
I'm going to have to give this a rewatch now that you've had it so high, because I went to the Enzion to see it, and I was just kind of really confused. Like, I couldn't latch on to it. I was just not on its wavelength.
Well, they didn't show subtitles for you, so you couldn't.
Right. I was just in the darkness. It just,
this is a foreign film, so.
It was hard to follow. I love the look of it. Like, it was stunning, like hashtag visually stunning, copyright 2022. The plot, I really struggled to follow the plot. So now that I kind of know the overall, now that I've seen it and I know kind of the overall beats, I'm gonna have to give it another look and try to just take another look at it, because it didn't click. Yeah. You know, sometimes you're just not on the wavelength and it doesn't click, you know?
I'd encourage rewatching it. I loved it just right off the bat, but especially after rewatching it, I was like, no, this is one of the 5 best movies of the year. Like, this is without a doubt, like, one of the best movies I've seen in the last several years. This is just absolutely, like, I almost want to just straight up call it a masterpiece. Like, this is a masterwork of everything that he is doing here is just operating 10 out of 10. Like, everything from this point forward, it's just like there's several aspects of the film that I can like check off the box of just like, Yeah, no, I have no faults with any of these things here. The storytelling itself, I think I mean, it's a mystery. So like the first time you're watching it, you kind of have like, you're trying to solve the puzzle in your head here.
Yeah.
Like how
but also what you were talking about earlier about how like there's moments when like a character is in a shot, but they're not like actually there.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of that where I just like, it just became a little bit convoluted.
Because it's shot in such of a way where like the detective will be like, he'll be on like a, what do you call it? Like a, not camp out, like a stakeout, like just staking out like Tong Wei's character and just like looking at her through the binoculars, and then he'll call her on the phone to like ask her things. And then as he's like delivering messages on the phone, he just like appears behind her and is just like talking to her face to face in the room.
Yeah.
But he's not actually, it's just all shot like there's so many different choices that are made here that are just kind of bringing these two characters close together and then pulling them apart and then bringing them back together and pulling them apart. And this way, it's this like, it's almost like a ballet, like it's operatic how everything is handled between these two characters, this two-hander here. It's so beautiful. Everything that's trying to say also about like marriage and love and kind of how the drifting apart of that and then coming back together. Yeah,
because he has a wife, you know, and he
does have a wife.
She's gonna be okay. She loves him.
He's got triples of the Hyundai,
and he's running after this criminal.
Triples of the Honda.
You have a wife at home. All right, Decision to Leave is Hunter's number 5. My number 5 was The Fabelmans, which we just talked about. So now we're at 4. Drew.
Top 4.
Number 4.
Tar.
Lydia Tar exists.
Tar. Oh my God, we get to talk about Tar. Oh my Tar.
Could have been higher. Top tier movie. Masterfully directed. Some of the best directing I've seen in years. Like I'd put it up there with almost anyone.
So here's what I want to say about Tar. At one point, I didn't have this movie on my top 10. And it was hanging around, like I was saying earlier, the Batman, like low, like who's vying for that low spot, that number 10 spot. This was one of those movies that was vying for that spot. And then, like I mentioned, I did a little sample platter. You know, I didn't have time to watch a whole movie, so I just kind of perused different little bits. And I've been thinking about Tar a lot since I saw it. Because the thing is there are movies that, you know, kind of hit you like a freight train and stick in your mind. Sometimes there are movies that you want to return to a lot, you know, the rewatchability factor. And Tar fits kind of in the middle of that a little bit, where like, it's not the kind of movie that like fully hits you like a freight train, and it's not fully a movie that you want to rewatch over and over, but it lingers. It lingers and you keep thinking about it, and without having to rewatch it over and over, it sticks in your mind with the same force that a movie that, you know, kind of hits you hard would. It's not a big movie. It's not A Way of Water. You know, it's not Big Jim slapping you across the face with his big old blue cock.
It's My Way of Water.
Yeah.
This movie is subtle, and it is not like most movies. It's very artsy. It's very thoughtful. Everything it does it underneath the surface, and it does it in the details. And I feel like we have gotten really far away from having movies like this. Maybe there was a time when we used to get a lot of movies like this that really respected their audience and allowed them to like be like, all right, I'm gonna watch that, and then I'm gonna have a think, and I'm gonna you know, we didn't watch this in the theater. At least I didn't. Did you watch this in the theater? Okay,
yeah,
I watched this on a screener.
Saw it, at a theater showing. It was 2:00 on a Sunday, and there was 2 other people in the theater. They were both in their 70s, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, it's the whole Mark Maron bit. It's the whole Mark Maron bit of like, what happened to movies where you walk out, you stumble out of the theater, and you're like confused, and you're like, did he die? What happened? Like, we don't have movies like that anymore. Which, by the way, shout out to Maron, because Todd Field was just on Marin this week.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Did they finally
listen?
Did they finally squash their beef?
They did squash the beef. Yes,
from their 90s stand up.
Yeah. Todd Field, turns out he's like a really cool guy. Like I was also, before you guys got here, I was watching the directors roundtable on Hollywood Reporter.
Hell yeah.
And guess who fucking dominated the conversation is fucking Alejandro Iñárritu. Like, don't have that guy on your roundtable.
Get that guy the fuck. Can we blast that guy to a different fucking planet?
I don't know.
Well, how do you think he got the funding to make that fucking movie? That man is good in the room.
I kind of I don't hate him. I kind of like him, but it's
he's so affable.
Yeah. Cool. But it's like you watch Todd Field in that video and it's like, dude, I just want to hang. Like I want to vibe with this guy. He looks so cool.
You know, this is Todd Field, this movie in general. This is one for the Americans because this is a movie that should by all measures be European.
Yes. Well, it is in Europe. It's shot in Europe.
Large part. Yeah. It's in Europe. It feels European. It is weighty and smart and all of those key European things. And it has a direction style that I would call European, where like, I don't know if there's a specific word for it, but like the entire fucking movie from scene to scene is just casual jump cuts.
Oh my God.
It's just
expertly done.
You know, you never have to ask how much time has passed. You're like, oh yeah, this time is probably an hour. This time it's probably a day. Like it always makes sense. We're you know, you don't really need like time cards to pop up. You know, it's a new scene. It's effortlessly cool. And a lot about the way this movie is directed feels effortlessly cool. It feels fitting the movie as well. Because a lot of it feels cold and calculated, almost in like a Fincher way.
I mean, the world that it's depicting is a little bit cold and calculated. You know, this classical music world, and we got to talk about Cate Blanchett because that's what I was going to say. Is that like I did this little sample platter, and then from the jump, you're introduced to Lydia Tarr herself, and then I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, leaving this movie off my list? Like, This is the one of the great acting achievements of like the last, I don't know, 5-10 years.
I literally had a moment whenever because I saw this movie and I was just like, this is a piece of fiction. And about like, there were multiple points in the movie where I was like, wait, is Lydia Tarr a real person? Is this
she might as well be?
Is she real? Because Cate Blanchett it's more than breathing life into a character. She just creates a character. Like this is just a person. Lydia Tarr exists in the world today because of what Cate Blanchett is doing. And like
she did jump on the Zoom. She cannot go on camera or on mic.
Hey, lids, big lids. What's your take on doing the soundtrack for the next the
Monster Hunter,
the World of Warcraft sequel?
Do you think it's fucked up what Olivia Wilde did with Harry Styles?
Yeah, I want your takes. Oh no, you're cool with it. Okay, all right. If you say so.
All right. If she says so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. A lot of it plays into how well the movie's written. You can be, especially toward the beginning, it can feel stilted and it can feel like overly elevated.
I mean, it's artsy
to the point of trying to prove a point. You know, where it's like even in like the highest of high echelons of academia and like specified fields, people do not talk like that. Like that's crazy talk. That doesn't matter because
well, Todd Field is also influenced by Stanley Kubrick, and in those movies, people don't really talk like real people.
No,
either.
Yeah, because you don't have to.
You know what's boring is real people and real conversations.
Well, and also
the dumbest argument that I've ever heard is like, oh, it's not realistic conversations.
Well, it's just like it's like the opposite of like Banshees, for example, which is like a scenario in which those people would talk less stupidly than they do in that movie. Those people talk like dumb people in the year 2022.
Does Brendan Gleeson like idolize Lydia Tarr?
Yes.
Banshees made 100 years later.
It has so much to say that it makes perfect sense that people are interpreting it stupidly.
Oh, they're simplifying it. They're trying to say that this movie is about cancel culture. That's one of the things that it's about. It's also about like 7 other things.
And it's also the base take that like it's like anti-cancel culture is like an exclusively like dumb guy.
Oh yeah, because Lydia Tarr is such a hero that we should all root
No, exactly.
for.
It's the it's the person who sees a protagonist and is like, well, I must like them.
Yeah,
I see them. I've seen them for a half hour at this point. Well, I love them.
Yeah, they wouldn't give me 2 hours of this person if I was supposed to root against them.
No, Lydia Tarr is a fucking shithead.
She's a power obsessive
horny
maniac.
She's a horny bitch.
Yeah, she's so like one of the expert things that this movie does is it introduces us to her in this like probably the greatest exposition dump ever written. It's starting the movie off.
It is because it's a preamble to like a New Yorker like live.
Yeah, with an actual guy from the New Yorker.
I know, who is, by the way, a lot of like actual guys who, when you like, if you put the camera on them, they start acting not actual. That guy's so good.
Yeah,
like he's slaying so hard.
Well, that's part of Hunter's point about like thinking that this is a real person. Yeah. It's like, well, that if that guy's real, then Lydia Tarr must be.
Yeah, Lydia Tarr is a real person.
He's slaying. It's an insanely long preamble describing her entire life. By the way, the entire time that's going on, we're getting a beautiful montage of her getting clothes tailored and her little daily routine. It sounds stupid to say, but that is, you don't get montages like that very often because it's unrelated from what is being said. Usually montages with narration, at the very least, like they're related in some way, but no, it's accomplishing 2 things at once. We're getting to know her on paper life story, and then we're getting to know what she is like. All that tailoring stuff is like, oh, she's very fastidious. She needs everything to be just so. And also, like, again, stupidly, like, those are a lot of really good shots to use up in like 2 minutes. Yeah. Like that's my first impression of the movie was like, holy shit, he's cycling through like great shots.
In just like in a split second.
It's like, my God, what a waste.
But this whole movie is like that. There's so many setups that are just in just a fraction of a sequence. And it's you just think about like how much work went into just compiling this movie together and putting this world together.
I mean, this took Todd Field 16 years to make this movie. Like, he had other projects lined up. It wasn't just 16 years just devoted to Tar, but like
his previous film.
His last film didn't come out until it last came out in 2006. So he's just had this just sitting in the tank, just trying to like figuring out how to get this together. So it really is like, there's so many ideas here because it's like he's just had so much time to kind of get all of these ideas together and then figure out the perfect way to meld them together. It's not the sloppy director thing of like, this might be my only shot. I have to throw shit against the wall and just see throw all my ideas here and see what's going to stick. It's perfectly crafted and it weaves all of these themes together with the story, with Lydia Tarr at the center of it, who, by the way, I think I saw she's in like something like 78% of the shots or something like that, which would be like the most ever for a Best Actress win, or like one of the top 5 ever for just taking up the screen and owning this performance. I regret not watching this a second time because I think if I would have seen this a second time, I think this could be in like my top 3 because this is a movie that I have not stopped thinking about since seeing it in theaters.
Same,
it's just sat with me and I can't get it out of my head.
It's fucking amazing. It's just so like what we're getting at with all these angles is it's so labor intensive, but like we said though, it feels natural and it feels real. Even though like that montage, for example, that's a lot of labor on the behind the camera side. the script of that, the preamble, and everything Lydia Tarr says, which is so written, that's a lot of fucking labor.
Yeah.
And then there are a fuckload of long ass shots that not only require like camera movement rehearsal, that requires fucking acting rehearsal. That is just like, that's like Cate Blanchett starring in a play.
Dude, the Juilliard scene is like one of the scenes.
It's like, what? How many minutes is that? And it's one shot. Like it's
incredible.
Like 12 minutes.
It's long as fuck. It's dynamic. The camera is going everywhere
throughout that whole room.
Kate is cooking her fucking ass off.
But and the difference is between this and something like, I don't know, like Birdman. If you're gonna go for just like, if we're gonna go pile on to fucking Inarritu a little bit more, a lot of times whenever directors are trying to do like the long oneers, it's very athletic, for lack of a better term. It's very much like,
look at me,
showy. Look at me. It's like the camera is another character in the story, and nothing about anything that Todd Field is doing ever feels.
No,
it's
just
never
makes
putting
sense.
himself back on him. It's always just like a thing.
The character first.
Yeah, it's always like you realize like, oh shit, they still haven't cut in this scene. Like it's not like I'm like going between this guy's legs.
Yeah, it's just the shot is just being framed and reframed in like very normal ways. It reminds me sort of how Spielberg does it. Yeah, and he does it a lot in Fabelmans. Actually, it's just like these shots that are super dynamic, but it's all for a purpose other than looking dynamic. That scene is an important scene for a lot of reasons. Other than it being one shot, that's when the movie starts turning, because you think it's going to be a movie about like a mega successful like but asshole woman, and then it like during that scene, that's when you as an audience are like, it's no longer like, oh, you know, she's cool but she's a dick. It's like, I don't like her anymore. Like she thinks she takes things so far. She will not stop ripping this kid apart.
For like having like, he's a very
young person.
Yeah, it's like one of those takes where it's like, I don't listen to Mozart because like actually like he had we
need to cancel Beethoven.
He had sex with like a bunch of women, and like it's just like, it's actually not very cool.
No, but
it's a very like Twitter online kind of a take that feels like you're like, nobody would think like this. It's like, buddy, log on to Twitter.
No, tons of people would, and that's fine. And the conversation that's had is super valid. And the reason the movie rocks is because Lydia isn't far from being right in that discussion. She just is being a fucking bitch about it. She's being such a dick. Like, she's not.
She has the power in that situation.
Exactly.
She's the professor,
and she's ripping his ass apart when really all she could, like, she could just be like, oh, well, if you feel that way, then like you would have a hard time playing anything from anyone. Like, that's all she has to really say. But she has to go on for 10 minutes about what a fucking moron this guy must be, because she is personally offended, because as we learn across the movie, she
is doing the same thing that he's talking about.
And that's why, like, even as like an extremely successful, lesbian woman composer, she is not, what you would call a feminist or and progressive in any way, because she wants to have that power that those men had. She doesn't want to speak truth to power. She wants to have it. And that's true of a lot of people who like are marginalized but then gain success. They just want to have, they don't want to like change things once they get up there. They want to pull the ladder up.
Right. This movie isn't about cancel culture. It's about power. Yeah. It's fully about power, and it's about how someone that has as much power as you could have in a world like classical music starts to abuse it. And you can abuse power in any setting, but to choose the setting of classical music and to give her the accolades that she has, things like the EGOT that gets mentioned and all these things, and the status and the grandeur and the, I question some of the things like the paparazzi that follow her to her event, which I'm like, is there going to be going after
people going to be protesting in the streets
for a classical composer? Okay. But the idea that like this person is at the top, they are at fully at the top. Mm-hmm. And when you're at the top, you start to disconnect from humanity.
And you probably got there because you're willing to disconnect from humanity. And so it's a lot easier for people like that to lose it more because they are already willing. If you get that high, that means that you're willing to shut off your empathy and like not bring others up with you because you can't. And, you know, as we learn the extent of what she's done, which a lot of it is delivered via her assistant, played by
Portrait of a Lady.
Naomi Merlant.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Famous
in this movie.
portrait,
So good.
portrait painter.
Yeah.
She's great at any like lesbian longing from afar role. Let's just give it to her. She rocks. It's a rare case where like when a character I really, really like disappears midway through a movie and I don't mind it because it makes sense because that's what would happen. They wouldn't meet up ever again. She would fully disappear. She would get a lawyer. The lawyer would say, do not ever speak to Lydia Tarr again. Like that's the end of it.
Yeah. And then there's like a whole nother hour to the movie of her just spiraling.
Yeah. And then, Lydia Tarr spins out. You get relatively supernatural elements of her seeing this pattern, which I like. I've heard people don't like it. I love that.
Again, to the subtle quality of this movie, like there is a haunted quality to this movie that is never in the foreground. And I even had to like pause it because there's a moment where she gets up in the middle of the night and there's someone sitting in the corner of the room. There's a figure and it's a quick moment. It's a quick cut.
Yeah, it's like a horror movie. It's like that shot is in Hereditary.
And the fact that the movie never lingers on moments like that and always keeps them in the background and always like makes you wonder like what's going on here? Why am I seeing? And there's moments that I didn't catch that other people have pointed out. There's moments when she's just like in her study with the piano and there's like someone in the fucking way background in the corner. There's a person, there's a figure.
Yeah.
And it's because there is actually she is haunted. This lady is actually haunted by this person. Because
we're led to believe that like, I mean, there are events that come to light here of like things that have happened, people who she has kind of taken under her wing and and taken advantage of, had sex with them, and then in return got them to where they wanted to be and then abandoned them. And we're led to believe just this one story that definitely the first time this has happened, there's probably been like tons of bodies that have been in the wake of Lydia Tarr on her rise to power that we're seeing here. So it's just going to have this kind of presence to it where we are aware of her demons more than she even is. And then she slowly starts to be able to, over the course of the film becomes more and more aware of these demons that have been haunting her this whole time.
God, it's so awesome. This
it's
movie is so fucking awesome.
There's so many layers.
There's also just like there's some great comedy in this movie. Like when Lydia Tarr threatens a child, shit just rules.
Yeah.
Like, this rocks.
But she storms Mark Strong on the podium.
His hair,
the wig.
Minor spoilers for Tar here. I want to have context.
Spoilers for Tar. Hunter just said spoilers for Tar.
I don't know. Can this movie even be spoiled? I don't know. But
Tar will return in the Kang Dynasty. 2025.
I heard that Lydia Tarr is going to disrupt the comedy of the Quantumania. No, I think that like I was in the theater, kept expecting the whiplash moment. I don't know about you guys, but while watching this movie, I was like, it's all leading up to one big concert. I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And then how it kind of just completely like punches that, it literally tackles that idea of the big concert. Is just so beautiful. It's so well done.
It's incredible. I want to go back to what you guys were saying about her being haunted. Because it's that, I don't know, that's my favorite part of the movie. It's the idea that because she has just become the enemy of herself. Even though, like, we're not led to believe that anything happened in her past to get her where she is. She is haunted by. She is in total denial the fact that there are barriers in the place of women, like reaching success.
She can do whatever she wants because she's unstoppable.
Well, because she has become a barrier in the place of women trying to reach success. She's become a Weinstein. So throughout the movie, she is fully haunted by she like the pattern is a representation of that she keeps seeing, but also like she has like full the screaming that she hears in the park when she's on a jog.
Yeah,
that is the sound of a woman like being raped.
Yeah,
it's
terrifying.
It would have seemed. Yeah, it would seem. She hears it. She goes after it. She cannot locate it. It's great sound design because the location of the sound changes like depending on where she's facing. And then her neighbor's mom.
Mm-hmm.
What's
going on there? Is it like a leprosy?
Her mom. It's just her mom is completely. You know, it's the neighbor herself who like is always knocking on her door is a sad story on her own. Like that's a woman who has just been sort of like thrown away by her own family as just like a caretaker for this mom. Mm-hmm. And the mom is just like on the way fucking out. And it's, I don't know. It's such like a blatant representation where like Lydia literally has to go over and lift a woman up off of the ground,
a dying woman.
which is a nightmare to Lydia. She's like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me.
I need to go and like remove all my clothes and bleach my skin.
Like it's symbolism that is like, just to me, it's the perfect amount of obvious that like you pick up on it, whether or not you are. And it's really easy to like think about it and realize that you are. It's masterful. Like it's like you said. I think just like every shot in this movie has intent behind it. It's been thought about. It hasn't been overthought. It's just the right amount of thought.
Yeah.
This is the one movie on my list that we did before we came on this pod. We were just kind of like looking at our lists from years past, and we're like
kind of reevaluating.
Like, what the fuck was that doing so low? I had that in the 20s. I had that like way too low. Yeah. And this, I feel like, has the best shot of like any movie that we've talked about so far that could be like, was Tar just like the best movie of 2022?
Yeah, I had it number 2 like yesterday. It could easily like next year.
I just didn't have time to rewatch it. Otherwise, I feel like it could have been even higher.
This is going to be one of the movies where like 10 years from now we're going to look back and be like, oh, Tar like only won like one Oscar.
Yeah, it won for Cate Blanchett and for nothing else.
Yeah, Tar. It's like it's hyper modern, but like timeless weirdly. It fucking rocks in every single way. A couple little minor shout outs for it too. One of my favorite tricks that always works on me in movies is the sound design thing where like during a tense scene you have like a little low rumble of bass. It's not like tuned to a note. It's like not really diegetic, but like, and you don't even pick up on it.
It's just atmospheric
unless you think of it. That I would say there's probably like 35 minutes of that in Tar. He keeps doing it and it keeps working. It works so fucking well because like it's a movie about sound. Yeah. So I think it works better. Also the dream sequences are great. Like it reminds me
very well done.
Reminds me kind of Sopranos dreams where it's like it's montagey and it feels nonsensical for a half second, and then you think about it and you're like, oh man,
the way they kind of warp, there's like a mirror warp effect to it.
The bed on fire, like it's just it's easy to decode, but it makes you feel smart. That's kind of my favorite kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also love the ending. Mm-hmm. Monster Hunter.
Dude,
with headphones on a click track. She's not the clock anymore.
Well, honestly, that whole like, this is a movie that I did have this thing whenever I was watching it the first time where it ends multiple times. And so it was kind of a thing of like
here we go.
Is that the ending?
Still going.
Okay, so that's not the ending either. But then it does pick the perfect spot where the final shot is like, oh fuck yeah, you found it.
And I'm really glad that we went to that country, not only because of the final scene, but because of the massage thing.
Dude, ooh, yeah, that is like, and seeing reaction to
her really reckoning with the fact that
doing it, but now it's just like here on display in a commodity for you. Like it's
arranged in an orchestra, like an orchestra,
and
in front of her.
Yep. And I don't remember if my girlfriend said this or if she found it somewhere on like Letterboxd, but the idea that like, what if I doubt that would be what they would present to just any woman who wants a massage. What if it's because they know her? What if it's because they know who she is? So they're like, oh, we're going to give you what we give like the big men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, incredible. Lydia.
Would you guys go see a Lydia Tarr concert?
I would have to probably.
What if I told you that Lydia Tarr is opening for Brand New?
Oh, well.
I go for Brand New.
Okay.
I couldn't give a fuck about Lydia Tarr's dumbass music.
I will say, dude, the score is pretty great. Shout out to Hildur Hordaden. I don't. Literally, I just throw consonants out there. I don't know, man.
There's not a lot of score in this movie. It's what Drew just said. It's a lot of just atmospheric soundscapes.
You should start putting that on the pod.
Yeah. Well, shout out to
Rumble.
Shout out to Lydia Tarr's composing.
Tar is Drew's 4 and Hunter and I's 7. Hunter, where your number 4?
My number 4, I feel like we're gonna have to wait on a little bit. My number 4 is Jordan Peele's Nope.
You're gonna have to wait on that one.
Yep.
All right, so your 4 is Nope. My number 4 is Top Gun Maverick.
You're gonna have to save that shit.
Top Gun Maverick.
Wow. Number 3.
Top 3.
This is
top 3.
This is my movie I really want to stump for that I think we've all seen.
I think I know where you're going here.
Give it to me.
Are triangles your favorite shape?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yes.
I knew this is in your wheelhouse.
Triangle
right
of Sadness.
It is.
Oh my God.
I mean, it just makes me want to watch more Ruben Östlund. I need to see Force Majeure. I know. Because it's like that's the only. Can you name another European like comedy that has become such a massive.
Well, you should also watch The Square too.
No, I know.
The Square is. I think The Square might have been. It was in my top like 20 in 2017, wherever that came out.
I know. Triangle of Sadness. Every time I think of it, it grows in my estimation. I love that fucking movie.
Fuck yeah.
It has a lot of elements that like isolated from one another I love, and then even put together, which is where it falls apart for people, is like put together as a whole. It doesn't quite work perfectly for a ton of people. That's why it's not making like lists, for example. But it just does for me. It fucking rocks. The way that it begins introducing Harris Dickinson as if he is just going to be a traditional protagonist
on the worst date ever.
It's even before the date that he's introduced though. It's on like
show.
that. It's on like
the
a
fashion shoot.
like a reality show about like fashion models pre-shoot.
H&M, Balenciaga.
And then he where this movie goes.
You start there.
You start there.
Yeah.
It's very measured and like paced out. Like it's not like rushing through any of that. It's giving you like these like awkward moments, sort of like telling emotional moments of him doing that, him auditioning, so you know where he's at, him on the date, and then back in the hotel room, and then making up with his girlfriend. Rest in peace, his girlfriend, by the way. What's her name?
Charles B. Dean.
Yeah, who's incredible in this movie.
She rocks.
Just as good as Harris Dickinson. She's so good. That's like 20 minutes and we're not like on the boat. That is such cool storytelling to me, because they don't. I guess you could say Harris Dickinson is the protagonist of the movie, but this movie doesn't have a protagonist. Like the movie just abandons him for like an hour.
Yeah, no, I mean the movie
he's around.
If anything, it kind of felt to me while watching it, this is like 3 different movies. It's like 3 short stories that are all interlaced together between this overarching theme of like rise and fall of this,
and it's just
super wealthy class on the screws.
And knowing that Östlund wrote Force Majeure is interesting, because in the beginning little sequence, you have a very long and fascinating conversation about like gender roles and like, you know, like, should Harris have to pay for the meal when he makes less money than her?
Should a father abandon his family?
Exactly.
As a snowstorm.
So that's definitely like an interest of Östlund is masculinity. and its limits. You get that, and that carries. You don't know it's going to, but you get a little in the second act on the boat, which is just
dominated by Woody Harrelson.
The boat slaps so hard. It's so fucking fun. You're on the boat. You don't know where it's gonna go. If you know a little bit about the movie, you know that it's like a boat movie.
Yeah, that's the closest thing you know, is that there's a boat involved.
Yeah, but you really spend time with and get to know like a lot of different characters. Like you really do. You get to know the older couple, the fucking freak Russian guy and his wife. Who then just
the
like
grenade manufacturer.
Yeah, his wife, who then you get to see just like slosh around in a bunch of puke and shit later for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, this whole middle chunk, like, it seems like Austin is like very deliberately trying to make some type of statement about the world right now.
This boy Moo just like made this a 4D experience.
Oh no. As soon as you mentioned piss and shit.
Oh my god.
Moo is out here trying to make us feel like we're back on the boat.
I'm probably used to it because I'm not getting it.
You're fried.
Yeah. Just every day for me. The notion of like this boat going down, you know, the storm is shaking it.
Which, by the way, for the record, though, that is after like over 30 minutes of just like character development.
Yeah,
you're meeting people, you're laughing at them, you're laughing with them. You're meeting the staff of the cruise ship.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, obviously, like the Dolly De Leon character is going to play into the last chunk, but the idea of like we all still have to play our roles as the ship is going down. Like, if you extrapolate that to our modern society, the idea that like in the COVID pandemic, people still had to go work at Starbucks as like everyone. Okay, now I'm getting in a little bit.
It just was a delay.
They stick around.
It had to like float back to you over here.
As the idea of that, like, you still have to participate in commerce and like the servants still have to serve as this like ship is like about to fucking sink.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of meat there.
And the biggest perpetrator of that is, I think, the character Paula, who like once they get ashore, immediately, it doesn't matter who her leader is, she will be the second in command.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, I don't give a fuck who it is. I'm going to be the assistant because that is safe. It like the way this movie allocates time and attention is exactly perfect to me. That's what I want. I want to be wondering where we're going next, and this movie leaves.
This is the ultimate movie for that, for just like kind of, you never feel safe, you never like really get your footing in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like Harold, you get tons of, you know, you finally get into Harrelson and the Russian guy. That sequence goes on for so long. Him and the Russian guy just fucked up.
They're trash.
So faded on the intercom system.
Just the captain and Dimitri just hanging out.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's one of the parts where the movie becomes more overt, you know, where it's the ship captain is like an American communist, and the Russian guy is like a Russian capitalist. And
that's funny.
Really, and they're trading quotes back and forth. And then meanwhile, before that, you're getting the whole thing with Harris Dickinson being intimidated by the staff member who's not wearing a shirt. You know, you're still getting the masculinity stuff, and then you're getting the Russian dude's wife who's insisting that the whole staff like gets in the pool and comes and plays with them, and it's like just like so fucking painful to watch. Like that one staff, her name's Alicia,
the blonde girl.
Yeah,
she's good.
Well, the bleach blonde is Paula, but then the blonde like longer hair. Yeah, Alicia Erickson is the actress. Her character is Alicia. The pain in her face trying to figure out what the fuck to do when a guest is ordering her to not do her job. And it's like 5 minutes of that. Like, it's like, yeah, no, if you're in the pocket of a scene, just stay there. Like, just keep doing it for a while. There's no rush. Like, you don't have to like have some sort of perfectly crafted, like every single line plays into the next one script. You can have a series of vignettes. You can have scenes that are related by theme, and by the way, also by like by time period, and by there is a plot because they're all in the same fucking boat. This is
that awkward comedy is very, I would say, very European kind of comedy.
Very like
they
Scandinavian,
love that.
right?
They love that. This movie, actually, we should say the BAFTAs, they like it. I mean, it didn't get. I'm sorry, it wasn't a war epic on the likes of All Quiet on the Western Front, but it did get.
People love when you remake a movie that they loved 90 years ago.
It did get good. It got original screenplay. It got casting. The BAFTAs have a casting award, which is great. And Dolly DeLeon.
Yeah.
She was my vote for supporting actress at our critics group.
I can tell you where
she was my number one vote.
She was number 2 on my ballot, so we're doing God's work out here. She was only behind Janelle Monáe for me.
Absolutely takes over the back half of this movie, and it's glorious.
So this is a movie I really need to rewatch because I really loved it a lot whenever I first saw it. I will say, I saw this movie at the Enzian. My audience was not fucking into this movie at all.
Really?
And I think it's because I saw it. The Enzian sometimes can, depending on the day and time you go, it can get a little bit stuffy. It can get a little bit old, a little bit like long in the tooth, a little wealthy. And there was a certain point where there was this. I did the thing where like I went down to like the lower section. There was a woman who came in and she had like 4 little tiny dogs in there. She basically belonged on the ship from that they go on. She was like super upper class in Winter Park area, had these little dogs with her, and she was just like, oh yeah, would you like to hold my dogs before the movie started? So I was just like, okay. So like I pet these dogs, and then as we're devolving into chaos, I can just see her looking around and like looking for reactions. At this point, I'm like, fuck yeah, this rules. Just because I'm just in more than the movie itself, I'm enjoying watching her reacting to the movie. And she just left.
Yeah.
she just got up and left.
I mean, it becomes like when the ship is sinking, it's like very viscerally upsetting to watch. Yeah. You're watching people swimming in shit.
There are like actual warnings of like, there's a lot of vomit.
You watch a whole crew. Yeah, you watch an entire room full of people puking for like 10, 15 minutes. And that is, I don't know. That's why I love this movie. I wish more people would direct
puke and shit.
Well, because Austin, like I'm sure Force Majeure has like a more like quote unquote normal time allocation for it to become like as big a deal as it became. But this is filmmaking that follows what's interesting instead of what the hook is. Because if you get on Google and you read the hook, it says a cruise for the super rich sinks. That's how it starts. That's
something that happens in the movie.
That's sure.
There's an hour plus before that.
Yeah.
Straight up like an hour of movie. And that's not what any producer would want. But that is what a writer and director would want, because there's a lot of interesting shit to get into before the shit sinks. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there is, it does suffer a tiny bit toward the end just because like we're forming an entirely new society on an island with the back half of the movie.
I don't think that's, I think it suffers
don't either.
if you're comparing it to the first half of the movie, but that's a great, it's not a bad part. Like,
no, it's not
detached.
That's the thing.
But it's still rocks.
It's equally interesting, just in a different way, because it's interesting in like plot ways. Like things are moving very quickly in that segment, and that's fine. And it might feel a little stilting to some people, especially upon like first watch and like not reflecting. It's like, oh wow, like there's not a lot going on, and then there's a fuckload going on. I think you need to watch this through the lens of just like what's interesting.
So I love this movie. It's in my top 20. Like it was on my long list of movies to make my top 10. I do really love this movie, but one thing that I did have coming away with this is that there is a little bit of disjointedness. And I think part of that is almost purposeful in what Ruben Östlund is going for here. He is trying to keep you on your toes, but I did have a couple different moments where I was like, this is feeling like 3 different movies, and we're trying to find the through line here. But I mean, I think that you worded it in probably the best way of just saying it's following what's most interesting scene to scene. But there is a little bit of disjointedness to it that I feel like is not in Oslin's other works. Like, I have not seen Force Majeure. At least I haven't seen all of it. I'm pretty sure I've seen a good chunk of it, but I still think I like The Square more than Triangle of Sadness.
More contained.
It's a lot more contained. It does get wild. It has a point where a man just starts acting like an ape and jumping on tables for like way too long. It's like, it's the same type of thing where it's a scene where you're like, all right, please cut. Please cut. Please, for the love of God, cut to the next.
Those
scene.
are my
Please, please, for the
that's
love
why
of
this is
fucking
so high.
God, stop.
Those are my favorite scenes in anything.
It has plenty of those, just like how Triangle of Sadness does. But I mean, it still is one of the best casts of the year. It really does just kind of get that thing down of just like, it's a little bit heavy-handed with its commentary, but almost purposefully so. It's like it's literally swimming in the piss and shit of the upper class and showing you that we're all the fucking same, that you're just, what you have is nothing. Like, it's all materialistic and nothing matters.
And when we're all on an island, it all changes.
It's all going to come down to like, well, I have access to this thing, so I am now your king.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
And like some people are in different roles, and yet some are in the same roles. Harris Dickinson would hate to admit it. He's sort of in a similar role on the island. It's just a lot more overt. But the whole reason he's on that boat is because he's the same thing.
Right.
That's why I love it, because I think you can find the through line. I think it would hold up upon rewatch, like looking for that through line. Like one of my favorite movies ever is Gone Girl, and it's sort of a similar deal to me. It's like it's different story. It's different feels, but you find what's the same.
It's a prism that you can look at. You know, the light shines different at different angles.
Yeah.
Triangle of Sadness, Drew's number 3. Great pick. Great pick. Hunter, number 3.
What is my number 3? Oh yeah, I know what my number 3 is. Ba 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 lon 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 ba 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 lon 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 ba 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 lon ba 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 Babylon.
I know.
It is
so really quick, my biggest regret is that I didn't see this. Especially because Colin, friend of the pod, texted me about it. And
what did he say?
It was the best pitch for me.
Did he say that it was 2 Skinamarinks long?
It is in fact 2 Skinamarinks long.
The runtime of 2 Skinamarinks?
No, I feel like it's the most honest and like I don't know. It's just a very simple way to portray the movie that made me want to watch it so bad, because he was like, "Do you see it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't yet." And he said, "It's like Family Guy." And I said, "What?" I said, "LMAO, what?" And he said, "Yeah, it has like really lowbrow, stupid humor. It's great."
It opens in the first.
That made me want to watch it.
Let me tell you, in the first 2 minutes of this movie, an elephant shits on the camera.
Yeah,
the camera is just pointed at the anus of an elephant, and it shits all over the camera. That's cool.
This is the thing.
That's how the movie starts.
This movie, Damien Chazelle. I mean, let's go back to the director draft. Damien Chazelle was my first round draft pick. He was number 1 on my big board. He was my guy. This has been a guy who I'm just like, this is my large adult son who makes films, and I'm claiming him as my own, and I love this man. I love First Man, but even after First Man, I was like,
what's next?
It was it was a thing of like, all right, is he a little bit one note? Does this man have a sense of humor? Is this man able to kind of make more broad films? And Babylon, we'll talk a little bit about some of its messiness, but this movie leveled up Damien Chazelle in my mind. At this point now, after seeing this, I'm like, yeah, no, Damien Chazelle, you're back. Blank check, whatever you want to do for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, Paramount did give him a blank check for this movie, and it's not working out great for them.
Paramount gave him a $150 million blank check that is not going to clear.
But it's fine. I think that what he is doing in this movie is masterful. Which probably isn't what Paramount might have wanted. The first, 25 minutes, 30 minutes?
It's a party.
Movie,
it's a nonstop party.
It is everything before the actual title card hits, Babylon, is something that Chazelle is pushing you to walk out of the theater. Chazelle is pushing you to actually pass on this movie. You mentioned the elephant shitting. There's this giant party that's filled with drugs, active sex, people just fucking each other in this scene, people dying of overdoses. All of the excess. It's everything.
There's fingers and butts, dicks and butts.
It's everything. It's everything that Baz Luhrmann thinks that he's fucking doing whenever he's making a movie, and Damien Chazelle is just doing this off of a fucking whim. All of that. It's everything on the screen at the same time. It's messy. It's all of the excess, and then flash. Then you get the title card. So that first 30 minutes is just going to automatically deter 95% of people. But if you buy in, if you were the type of person to say I
love excess.
Fuck yes. Give me this. Give me just a little bit more. Give me a little bit of excess. Umi.
I need another hit.
That was a Rina Sawayama reference.
I got it.
Thank you. So from there, we lead into the golden hour sequence of everything being on the set, which is my favorite sequence in any movie I've seen this year.
I watched it again.
I've watched it 5 times. I can't stop.
By myself in my living room, and I stood up and cheered by myself in my living room.
I
clapped.
Good.
It's incredible filmmaking. You watch this and you're like, how is anyone able to master the art of filmmaking to the extent that he has? That's
the thing, is that I just feel like nobody is better at just pointing a camera at something and just making it the best.
But it's not just that. But it's everything else. It's the editing. It's the music. It's the acting. It's every component just perfectly gelled together. It's fireworks.
Let's take those one by one, because I mentioned checking off the boxes of 10 out of 10 things that now we're picking nits here. Now that we're up here at the top of what's number 1, what's number 4. What separates this for me is all of those elements that you just mentioned there. First of all, the cast. This is my best cast of the year. Margot Robbie. In a world that Kate Blanchett doesn't exist and isn't Lydia Tarr, I'm here vouching for Margot Robbie as Best Actress. She's not getting any love for this award, and I have no idea why, because I think this is the best performance Margot Robbie has ever given in a movie.
Easily.
It's the best woman that Damien Chazelle's ever written in a movie, where Chazelle
that's a low bar.
Chazelle hasn't
a lot
written
of options.
I think Emma Stone in La La Land is pretty good.
Okay, yeah, that is, yeah.
That's pretty good. But Margot Robbie is so much more complex of a character, where at the end of the day, Emma Stone is good, but also she's still kind of one note. Margot Robbie is this this heroine, but also you can just see all of the warts, and they just keep growing and getting more in your face to confront them. But you're just I still just want to follow this woman.
It's the most, it's if someone were to walk onto a movie set, fresh out of nowhere, and have the most talent you've ever seen in your life, no training, but they're pulling all that talent from this darkness, this sadness, this trauma of their life.
And the way that that's handled in the movie is just expertly done. It's so well done. Diego Calva.
He needs to be a star.
He should be a movie star. He is out here in scenes with Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt and is kind of owning the scenes. Yeah. And it's just kind of, especially as I've rewatched this movie, as I've revisited this in my head, I don't know why he is not getting more praise for this movie.
So good.
Because he is just straight up a movie star.
His character, he gets consumed by the sleaziness. Because like this is a story about Hollywood. This is a story about how like as Hollywood gets more popular, it gets darker. It gets more artificial. It gets more consumed by financial interests. And he embodies that. You know, he has to be the face of a lot of that.
I think, I mean, going a little bit more big picture with this movie, I think a reason why this movie is not getting mass audience love, and B, not getting awards love is because one, it is over 3 hours long. It is a meaty boy. And it's a movie about Hollywood. It's a movie about making movies, which in general don't really make a lot of money, but they make awards money. They get the awards credit. They get Oscars. They get all this love. This movie is very mean-spirited towards movies. Not mean-spirited towards movies, mean-spirited towards Hollywood.
Yeah, it's pro-cinema, anti-Hollywood.
Yeah, it's
movies good,
very
Hollywood bad.
It's very anti-movie industry, and how like if you take part in this, it will swallow you up, it will chew you, it will use you, and it will spit you out into nothing. Jean Smart in this movie,
love her.
Oh my God.
Love everyone. Everyone
she
rocks.
should be in the best supporting actress conversation because she's incredible. Of course, there's Brad Pitt there.
Tobey Maguire.
Really? Well, save thoughts on Toby. Brad Pitt is like this really tragic character.
He's not having to pull real deep for when he starts like yelling and screaming and throwing things.
Well, so apparently, and I've read rumors, I don't know how much of this is true, but originally they went to Leo for the role, and Leo said this is a little bit too similar to my character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. And so Brad Pitt's basically doing Leo's role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a guy who's at the end of his career, and you're kind of seeing it start to dwindle down a little bit while you're seeing other stars go up at the same time.
It's official, buddy. I'm a has-been.
I mean, just scene to scene, there's so many sequences in this movie. And that's kind of the thing that separates this for me. It makes this like very rewatchable in my mind, is that I can distill this down to a number of sequences. I'm not going to get into specifics of them for Drew and for listeners, because this movie is still vastly underseen and people need to go seek this movie out.
Massive flop.
Yeah,
tell me,
huge flop.
Tell me when you want to spoil though, and I'll go pee-pee.
I'll wait. I won't spoil anything right now, but like, sequences wise, where it's just like, man, remember the talkie scene where it's just like you can just call out like a few words and say a couple things like that.
Hello, college.
This movie it's about the transition from Hollywood, from silent films to talkies, and how that led to some stars rise and that led to some stars fall. Like,
so to that point, when we saw this movie, we saw this with the critics group. We were just our mouths were watering. Like it was like we had seen the face of God.
I clapped multiple times
when we saw this movie. Like we were all like that was the best movie we had ever seen in our entire lives. Like, do not make any more movies. This is the movie to end all movies.
Oh, well, yeah, especially the ending of this movie is. And Damien Chazelle knows how to fucking end a movie, guys. He turns out that man knows how to end a film.
And at that point, I hadn't seen Singing in the Rain, and now I've seen Singing in the Rain. I saw Singing in the Rain for the first time in the past month, and
Great movie.
One Perfect of the movie. Best movies I've ever seen.
It's the best movie about Hollywood ever made.
And then I watched Babylon again, and I was like, "Is Damien Chazelle a hack?" Should we cancel Damien Chazelle for stealing all his ideas from Singing in the Rain? Because like a lot of this movie is just, it's just Singing in the Rain. He's just doing like the same. He's obviously obsessed with it. He's obviously like it's like the movie that inspired him to make movies. But there's so much of this movie that feels like he's retreading a lot of the same beats about what you're talking about, like the dawn of talkies.
I don't think that an elephant poops on the camera and singing it.
Yeah,
I know that.
I mean, there's a lot more to it. I get what you're saying. I do. I'm being
facetious, but the idea of like, he just is so in love with this movie that he can't help himself but
also that's all in his other films. Like if you watch Umbrellas of Cherbourg and then watch La La Land, like he's doing Umbrellas of Cherbourg and La La Land.
When I was watching Singing in the Rain,
La La Land, I was like, he's doing La La Land in fucking this movie. Like this movie is actively. And I'm saying this as a La La Land defender. I'm saying this as somebody who loves La La Land.
There's a scene in Singing in the Rain that's like, dude, you just in La La Land, you just ripped off of Singing in the Rain. You just stole the whole thing.
Watch Umbrellas of Cherbourg. There's a lot of that in there. Like it's okay. It's wearing your references on your sleeve. That's fine to me. I don't have an issue with that.
This is what happens when you wait so long to watch like one of the greatest movies of all time, and then like everything starts to make sense.
Yeah, you watch like Sharknado and then you watch Jaws and you're like, God, they made movies about sharks before this? I think Damien Chazelle has some issues with how he made La La Land. I think that La La Land he's dealing
with some things.
No, I think La La Land is at the end of the day, it's not wholly an optimistic viewing of things, but La La Land is looking at Hollywood with rose-colored glasses. La La Land is his first movie after Whiplash where he's like, I made it. I'm a big Hollywood director. I'm going to make an MGM-style musical that's just going to be my version of a Singing in the Rain. It's going to be my version of a Bye Bye Birdie. I'm going to do my version of this thing of like, it's big, it's Technicolor, it's loud, big set pieces. And Babylon's kind of just like actively shitting on the camera against the things. Yeah. Babylon is saying like, maybe we should kind of kill the old ways. Maybe we should let these ways die. You mentioned like if it's ripping off Singing in the Rain, and it is, but also it's kind of like repulsing against kind of some of the things that made Singing in the Rain be what it was. It against like some of the things that like the Hollywoodification that led to something like Singing in the Rain.
Right. It's tied to the advancements in technology. Like that's what this movie's about. Sound, the dawn of sound is a technological advancement, and it's something that took time and effort and a lot of work to try to get right. And that's what this movie shows. That's something that Singing in the Rain shows. But the way that this movie kind of tackles that idea different is that it blows that idea up so much. And maybe this is a time to get into spoilers.
No, real quick, because we can put a timestamp for spoilers for Babylon, but real quick, just want to give a shout out to the other things. The score, Justin Hurwitz's score, it's the best score of the year.
Justin
Hurwitz's score.
He's probably going to win an Oscar.
He should. This is his best score that he's ever made. This is better than the Whiplash score. This is better than the La La Land score. I have listened to the score continuously since it's come out. It's fucking masterful. Speaking again to the La La Landification, there's like almost like a what do you call it in
the
music?
motif?
The motif that's in Somewhere in the Crowd from La La Land that's then kind of recycled back in here. That's kind of recycled back in here, but it's transformed in a way. It's so well done.
So spoilers for Babylon if you haven't seen it, skip forward. But the thing that I'm trying to get at,
the Na'vi.
This movie ends with Manny seeing Singing in the Rain in the theater. And he has this vision of the future of cinema. And it's basically like you're in his head and he's having like this emotional breakdown, remembering his life, seeing it on the big screen depicted in this movie. And I think that everything that this movie is trying to do, going back to the idea of it juxtaposing these lavish orgy parties with these like sterile, kind of new Hollywood parties, and then the darkness of the fucking Tobey Maguire sex dungeon parties. Like it juxtaposes all these things, and it's telling this story about how much Hollywood changed and how much it had to sacrifice in it being born in this blood and sex and drug filled mess. And then as it became popular, it had to sacrifice all of that for the sake of commerce. And then you end in this montage about like the future of cinema. And what it's trying to say is that like these people felt like the art, the rawness of the art was being sacrificed by the advancement of technology, that the dawn of sound was killing what was good about their art. And the thing about movies is that movies are technology. Movies only exist because of technology. And that's seeing this movie a second time. That's a theme that really, really resonated with me. The idea that like the people in this story don't understand the big picture. But until you get to the scene with Gene Smart and Brad Pitt, where she tells him how it is. She sits him down and she's like, you need to understand the bigger picture. This will outlive us all. This will be here far, far beyond our lifetimes.
You will be here. You get to live on. You get to be forever. I mean, that's one thing that like, I mean, the more I think about it, Brad Pitt's character is just kind of this tragic. He's not somebody who's some old curmudgeon who's just like, I need things to stay as they are because things are perfect as they are. He is actively from the beginning of the movie just like, look what they're doing in Europe. They're trying to advance things. We can't make another fucking costume picture. We got to do something. He's inviting the era of the talkies, even though he doesn't realize that he's basically inviting his own. He's inviting his own doom. And that's kind of one of the things. There's a lot of like very classic tragic elements to this movie that just make it resonate with me more and more. And I have not stopped thinking about this movie. I think that there's so much that Damien is trying to get off his chest. It really feels almost like his first movie or his last movie.
Well, did you read the Katie Walsh Letterboxd review? It's fucking legendary. So
was it?
It's just, is this a love letter to cinema or a suicide note?
Oh yeah. Which is
it's so good.
I mean, that kind of is it. Like, it really does, because you know, whenever a director is making their first movie, it always kind of feels like they just have to throw every idea they've ever had. Or when a director is thinking when they think that they're at their end of their life, they feel like they have to throw everything else they have against the wall. Chazelle is theoretically in his prime right now. He's just now entering his prime.
And he made the kind of movie that's like, it's this
where
the
do
last
you
thing you
go
want
from here? Yeah, what are you gonna do? Like a silly little biopic after this? Like, what do we do after this?
He's gonna be in director jail. This movie cost Paramount so much money.
I'm gonna say it now. I'm calling it. He's gonna make a documentary.
Oh, I would love that.
Interesting.
He strikes me as a documentary guy.
I honestly
about jazz. That would be an interesting choice.
I don't think he likes jazz. I'm not sure if he's a big fan of that.
It's going to be
don't have enough information
about something colossal in history that failed, like the Titanic, but not quite the Titanic. It'll be something very like obvious that what he's thinking about.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's going to director jail. He won Best Director as one of the youngest directors ever. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to get another check after this. Maybe not $150 million check, but he'll get $50 million. He'll get $80 million to make whatever movie he wants to make.
We'll see. We'll see.
And maybe there will be a couple notes on this one. One of the things that is beautiful about Babylon, it feels note-free. I don't know if you had that thing.
Yeah, it fucking does.
While I was watching this movie, I was like, man, they just let them do whatever the fuck they wanted. They just brought Tobey Maguire in 2 hours and 40 minutes into this movie. Let's fucking go,
fucking
dude.
insane.
Let's fucking go.
I had him on my ballot for supporting actor.
Did you? Oh man.
He was my fourth slot.
I love
my
that.
ballot was Ke Kwan, Stephen Yeun, Brendan Gleeson, Tobey Maguire.
Let's see. My best supporting ballot was Ke Kwan, Stephen Yeun, Brendan Gleeson, Jalen Webb, who we're going to talk about him. We're talking about honorable mentions for Armageddon Time, and then Brad Pitt for Babylon.
All right. Well, Babylon is Hunter's 3, and it's my 8. 8 feels low, but that just speaks to like the quality.
You don't believe in the greatest working director that we have.
I hate movies.
You hate movies. You just like your Na'vi more than you like movies. That's okay. Cool.
My number 3 is Nope.
Wait, my number 2.
Whoa.
is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh my God. Jordan Peele getting his dick sucked
buddy.
tonight.
Buddy, my number 2 is also Everything Everywhere All at Once.
You're going to have to fucking wait on that one. You guys are, you don't even know. You don't even know. You think you know and you don't. You're lying to yourselves, okay?
Good point.
All right. My number 2 is RRR.
Yes, Ernie, you did it. You did it.
This is the other one.
I'm
I didn't
so
get
glad.
to see this one.
Not to.
The Indian Tollywood sensation, directed by S.S. Rajamouli, taking the world by storm. You see every couple weeks Twitter absolutely blowing up of yet another sold out screening of people just absolutely losing their fucking minds over this movie, and rightfully so.
Best Picture is coming. Let's do it.
Because this movie is one of the most insane, wholesome, tragic, beautiful, heartwarming movies, works of art, works of cinematic art that you will ever see in your whole life. It's the complete package, folks. It has everything. It has it's literally the Stefan of it's got it all.
This place has everything.
Dancing, music, violence, guns, British colonialism. It just manages. It is a big meaty 3-hour boy, like a lot of these movies on this list, like this podcast right now.
But much like this podcast, there is an intermission.
There is an intermission. Exactly.
Nice.
It
Love
breaks it up.
This one, I feel like it's going to be 3 hours without the intermission.
Yeah, well,
it breaks it up into 2 half or 1.5 hour chunks, and you get everything you could possibly want in each one, like the rise and fall. There's this bromance, these 2 beautiful boys that fall deeply in love with each other on a quest, opposing quests on different sides of the law. And it's everything that you could possibly want in a huge movie. This makes every Marvel movie look like absolute dog shit.
So, yeah.
It's just so... It's so earnest. It's so sincere. It's so willing to give itself completely over to every idea that it has. Every single moment strikes you with complete surprise. Like you couldn't possibly predict how much more over the top this movie is going to get. Like if you love movies, if you love being surprised by movies, if you love being taken on a ride, and not in the way that Marvel takes you on a ride when they like look at the camera every 5 seconds and they're like, can you believe this right now? Like, can you believe that you're actually here right now? No, these people are fully into it. They are all the way into these roles. So fully, just enthralling performances.
This is a movie that also is just all in. I mean, we just talked about Babylon, but just like this is the excess in the blockbuster form. That this is just like, we are going to go the most over the top set pieces you have ever seen in your entire stupid little lives. And also it's just going to look beautiful, and you're just going to sit there with like, this has like is up there for just like the most I smiled while watching a movie this year. That was just like, fuck yeah. But they did that too.
It's cool. Incredible, guys. It's fucking incredible. It's
so
just
good. I was a denier. Well, I wasn't even a denier. I just didn't watch it. Shout out to the 2 main leads, N.T. Ramarao Jr. and Ram Charan, who's just a hot dude out here.
What a
fucking
hunk.
snack and a half this man is. I showed this to a guy and she was like, oh. I was like, hey, look, I'm done.
His introduction at the beginning where he like fights a group of like 1,000 men.
He uses human bodies as like stepping stones as he's just like jumping around to fucking like beat the shit out of this protester.
Movie, this guy, the director Rajamouli, he just has this ability to create these like epic shots where like this one shot of this guy's face it just feels so fucking massive. Like this whole movie just it has this incredible weight to it. Nothing feels disposable. Everything feels like it's building upon itself. It's this amazing story of this friendship that gets built up and broken apart and then built back up again. And all along the way, like you have the dancing and you have the romance and you have the violence and the flashbacks. And it's just, they throw everything in and it all clicks together. And I couldn't possibly ask for anything else. This is everything that you want from film.
It's continually one-upping itself with its set pieces because we get these 2 character introduction set pieces, which would already be the coolest set piece in any other movie. In any other American blockbuster you'd see, it would just be like, oh, that part where the guy just like covered himself in blood and then dead sprinted through the forest away from
that's just his introduction.
Yeah.
That's just how we meet that guy.
It's gonna get better from there. Of course, the Natu Natu dance sequence is
phenomenal.
It's so good. Just Natu Natu for best song. If that doesn't win best song, it's a fucking. If that loses to the Lady Gaga song in Top Gun Maverick, it's a crime. It is a fucking crime.
Oh, I can see it now.
You're enabling that happening with your fucking list, Hunter. Don't act like you're not.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I can see it now. The 2 leads from RRR performing Natu Natu set against a backdrop of Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire.
Hello Papa from Pinocchio. Ciao Papa.
I love this movie. I plan on having it on in a loop during my wedding celebration.
Fuck yeah.
And everyone will be forced to watch it.
Ernie, are we all going to have to learn the Natu Natu dance to do at your
first dance? It's not flamenco. And it's not salsa. And it's not anything except Natu Natu.
I'm down for it. I'm ready for it. When the fuck are they going to play this in theaters in Orlando is my question.
They did. And no one saw it.
Yeah, well, they played it like months ago. I want them to play it. I want them to do it now. I just want them to do another showing. I'm ready for it. Could
you imagine at the fucking Point IMAX?
I'm so ready for it. I can find like 500 friends to go see this movie.
Dear Lord. It's incredible.
It's so
If you haven't seen RRR, please.
It's on Netflix.
It's incredible. It's so good.
It's on Netflix. It's so fucking good.
All right, Drew. You ever seen A Bad Miracle?
Nope.
Okay, bye.
It's my number 1.
Nice.
It's an instant classic. Mm-hmm. It's modern but old.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many contrasting things all at once. It feels familiar. It feels like seeable and predictable, and yet it's so inscrutable. And it's complex in what it's trying to say. And it doesn't particularly nail anything down in the way that like you would expect it to. It has some of the most visually striking and haunting sequences I've ever seen in any movie. I'd say
Gordy's home.
Yeah, the digesting sequence.
Oh my God. That's such a small little thing too. Mm-hmm. Just a quick little thing.
Yeah, well, followed immediately by the raining on the house.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's some of the best shit I've ever seen in a movie, and that's why it's my number 1. It like the highs of this movie are up there with the highs of any movie I've ever seen ever.
He is on another level here. Jordan Peele was my pick in our critics group for best director. He was my number 1 best director. And I picked him because like, even though I love Get Out and Us, like I love both those movies. And I think that Get Out on a screenplay level is like as tight as you can possibly get, as perfect as you can possibly get. Nope on a directing level is...
It's bigger.
It's so much more ambitious.
He's doing Spielberg, man. He did the Spielberg thing.
And
like
then
the old
some.
school. Yeah.
Like he is able to do the Spielberg thing and inject it with all the social commentary that he's been known for. Yeah, I mean, this is only his 3rd movie, but now like you come into a Peele movie expecting some type of like added commentary on like our modern society. And this has so much. Like it's about Hollywood. It's about, our kind of fixation on capturing our lives through the internet. It's about Black people's need to capture their lives in order to prove what is happening to them through the lens of a camera. There's so many layers to this movie that, like, I mean, I love Spielberg, but he never attempted anything as ambitious as this. The idea that, like, you can't control nature or it will unleash itself on you and
he did it.
digest
That's
you.
called Jurassic Park, quite literally, of controlling nature. But no, but
I'm talking about like Jurassic Park stacked on top of like 5 other things.
It's Jurassic Park mixed with Close Encounters
and E.T.
It's taking all of these different ideas and adding more horror elements than have ever been in a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, and it has. We did our quick little like actor draft. I think last year.
We're gonna do another one.
Daniel Kaluuya is my pick for best actor of the year.
He was my number one too.
Two of my picks in that draft were Daniel Kaluuya and then
actually no,
Stephen Yeun.
Stephen Yeun.
Yeah, Stephen Yeun was my number 2 in supporting actor.
Yeah. So guess what? We can do another draft all you fucking want, but I want to keep. I'm keeping the results of that draft. I did great.
This is the best Jordan Peele movie yet. Like, this is my favorite movie of his yet. It's a movie that, like, again, I kind of ran out of time on rewatches because otherwise this also could be vying for that top spot. I mean, this is at this point number 4, number 1. We're splitting hairs on what I have based on the day,
it was my top 4 was really tough, but it's just so I don't know. It's hard to capture what makes it special, and I think that's what makes it special is that it is like a microcosm of what it's about. It's about capturing something that's special.
Yeah, I mean, it's about filmmaking in the same way that like Babylon is about filmmaking.
Yeah.
Nope is also about that.
And it has like I don't know. He gets a lot of Spielberg, but he combines so many different things. It reminds me of. This is annoying, but it sort of reminds me of Kanye, where he's taking elements from like so many different
sampling,
different decades, different genres, different everything. Because you're getting like Lynch, in the backroom scene. Like that is one of my favorite scenes of the year. It's in my top 5. Probably my top 3. And then you're getting very traditional horror that from the 80s and beyond. And then I don't know, I think what elevates it the most is he's not afraid to also just give you pretty standard camp in the form of that weird ass fucking editor. And then forcing him to interact with your comic relief character played by Angel. Or is the character
Angel is the character's name.
Yeah.
Brandon Perez.
Who fucking rocks, by the way.
And Michael Wincott.
Our
guy just out there, cinematographer, just the gruffest voice you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, just making
the anti-Marcel the Shell, if you will.
Making those two characters interact with one another is a perfect resemblance of what Jordan Peele does. Like he is making things interact that don't usually have to in a movie, and yet somehow they work together. I said a similar thing about like Alex G's fucking album this year. I really have a thing for stuff like this where it's like those two things haven't quite gone together that way before, and yet there's not like particularly a reason why,
right,
other than standard convention. He just figures out a way to combine shit different,
and it pushes the medium forward. Like he is using cutting edge technology, the infrared IMAX setups for a lot of the nighttime photography.
It looks like pretty fucking flawless.
The idea that like you're gonna have a UFO alien creature that doesn't look unlike any other alien creature you've ever seen before.
Well, and is also going to entirely change form, like with maybe like 20 minutes left in the movie. Yeah. It's going to look like an entirely different and more magnificent thing.
And like it's all going to be about something. It's not just going to be like just some fluffy movie thing that doesn't ever give you any substance. It's all going to be based on a core idea, multiple core ideas. That's the crazy thing that this movie does, is that it packs in so many different things, and you can pick out different ideas, like the nature theme, the spectacle theme, the Black people needing to photograph their trauma theme. Like that's a huge thing that like most people wouldn't catch that on their first time, but Jordan Peele being a Black man, like that's going to be first on his mind, you know, the idea that like you have to capture it. You have to prove it. No one will believe you. The dramatic weight of that when it comes to someone of a specific walk of life, what that could mean to someone. But don't look at it.
Don't make eye contact.
Yeah,
like you can't like get too close.
And also, if I don't, you know, exploit this and like gain off of it, someone else is going to. It is going,
and then tying it to the dad dying at the beginning, and that's everything building off of the fact that like he's doing this because it killed his fucking dad, and he can't think about anything else.
Yeah, playing he does a really good job of playing just like a weird guy. Kaluuya,
he's so good.
That's the thing. I mean, between this
never
and
seen him be a weirdo before.
This and what was Judas and the Black Messiah last year?
Yeah,
or 2 years ago, where it's like polar opposites, and it's like, oh, so you can just do anything, huh?
Yeah.
You can play anything.
He's been fucking pure evil before.
Yeah,
like he's
Widows.
Yeah,
like he's incredible and something like that. No, I think that a couple things of this movie, like how it's just kind of set here. This has probably been the movie that Gaia and I have talked about the most throughout this course of this year, especially with everything the Stephen Yeun character, everything that he is about the inclusion of what's the name of the sitcom?
Gordy's Home.
Gordy's Home. Yeah, about like everything that is going on there and what Jordan Peele is trying to say. There's just so much to unpack there.
Turning your trauma into spectacle for other people to enjoy.
And kind of, it's something that in the past year I've started going to therapy more, and about deflection is a real thing. And almost it's kind of, it's tangentially related to a thing that I personally do. It's very common, which is like kind of deflecting with comedy as opposed to actually dealing with trauma. Is just like, it's easier to just make a joke about this. And it's kind of the same type of principle ideas. Instead of actually dealing with these traumas that you're having, I'm just going to like turn this around and just make this like, haha, isn't it this crazy spectacle thing that happened? You could spend the night in the room where all the things happen with all the memorabilia, like instead of actually dealing with those events that are occurring, and then trying to capitalize on that once again with these alien creatures showing up here. It's so incredible, everything that he's trying to do here, not to mention the fucking technical aspects of this movie. This probably is like the best sound of any movie that like I've ever heard.
This is the one that got away this award season. It's not even going to be nominated.
How did this not get best sound? Like,
It's insane.
That's dumbfounding to me that you're like, Elvis wins best sound because he's singing it. What? What the fuck are we doing? Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, the sound production in this, there's not a lot of movies that, especially if you aren't like a keen listener, like, or a keen movie watcher, that you would necessarily pick out the sound design. But this is one of those movies that whenever you're talking about like the sequence of getting like eaten by this alien and you're in its guts,
crunch,
like it sucks you in. It fills up everywhere. Like whether you're in a theater or watching it at home, whatever soundscape you're watching it on, it just it envelops.
And then also like super traditional sound stuff, like the balloons popping during the monkey scene. Is
the heroic theme when they're trying to get the shot, that when Kaluuya is just on the horse,
and then the music that plays while Stephen Yeun is giving his monologue about what happened with the monkey is some of my favorite scoring of the year. Like
it's so good.
Yeah, it's just, it has that like ethereal, like unattainable element that I think that really, really, really great movies have, where like certain choices you couldn't give like a why it works. It just does. Like it all just makes sense when you put it together. And that's like, those are my favorite type of movies. So it's my number one.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's Drew's 1, Hunter's 4, and my 3. Hunter, Let's get to your number one.
Tom Cruise saved movies, guys. He did it. I have this is actually going to be the last podcast that I do because I have enlisted in the Church of Scientology.
Oh, you're going to be on the front lines.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm going to be fighting the good fight. I don't believe that they believe in microphones. So,
okay. So you're not allowed.
Yeah.
It's against your religion.
Yeah, I can't do that. But what I can do is preach the gospel of Top Gun Maverick. So
a true achievement.
Here's the thing. Especially over the last year, since like March, April, this was not my number one. I had a movie that's going to be your number one, Ernest, as my number one spot.
And then this movie came out.
No, this movie came out
In May.
I saw it in May and I saw it again. And I just kind of sat here, kept thinking about it. And
We did a rowdy pod.
Yeah, we
with
did.
Dane.
Yeah, it was a great time.
We came to podcast
from the theater.
directly from
I'm
the theater.
dripping in sweat, drinking a few more Natty Lights. But this movie came out on 4K. It came out home release. And
dude,
since it came out,
rocks at home.
dude, let me just tell you. I've watched this movie like 5 times.
Yeah. I do the dad thing where I just stand up. I just like stand up and like I put my hands like on my hips and I'm like, all right, this is the scene where he like does the trial in 2.5 minutes.
There's something about
I gotta
this.
stand up right now.
I've talked about this with Colin and with Gaia that there's something about this that just feels so classic movie. That this is the classic. They don't make them like this anymore. Where even like whenever we're getting a blockbuster, there's something still very like 2020 about it. There's something that's still very modern. And Top Gun Maverick just feels timeless. This feels like a movie that if this movie was released in 1992, this would be Best Picture. This movie would be Titanic. This movie would win like 12 Oscars and we'd be like, yeah, Top Gun Maverick, masterpiece. But like because the kind of dynamics have shifted a little bit, that I feel like it's almost a detriment to its awards campaign, how broad and how mass appeal this movie is. But just watching it at home, enjoying it, this movie's just like one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever seen in my life. One day I was like doing stuff. I was doing chores at home and Guy was like folding laundry or something like that in the bedroom. And I opened up the bedroom door and she was just watching Top Gun Maverick without me.
Yes.
And she like, it looked like I walked in on her cheating. Like her face, she was just like,
it's not what it looks like.
She was like, don't say a fucking word or I will turn it off. And so then we just got to sit there
on the podcast
and just watch the rest of Top Gun Maverick. And it was just like, oh, this movie is just the best, huh? It just has that quality to it that like, it doesn't matter if I'm sad, if I'm happy, what day it is. I just want to watch Top Gun Maverick. I'm never going to get sick of watching this movie. Tom Cruise, this is like the best example of movie stardom that we've had in a movie in the last
he's the one
10 years, 20 years. I mean, there's a little bit of this in other Tom Cruise pictures, but just in general, there aren't a lot of movie star performances like this anymore. Like I just recently I was watching the first Magic Mike movie, which is a really good movie. Channing Tatum is great, but it's like, man, Channing Tatum might be like one of the closest things that we have to like an old school movie star kind of like embodiment in film. That's just a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Adam Driver is a movie star, but not like this. Like Adam Driver isn't doing a fucking huge blockbuster in the same way that like Tom Cruise was doing these movies back in the day. Or Tom Cruise just has this, he has this kind of, for lack of a better term, cult leader quality to him that I want to buy into him. I want to protect Tom at all costs. Miles Teller is just incredible in this movie. Yeah. Every time he says, "Talk to me, Dad," cry, tears, dude. Just immediately, just talk to me, Dad.
Daddy. Well,
I just,
Daddy. The beginning, the Mach 10 sequence when Mav is just like, "Talk to me, Goose." Like you're just dialed in from that point.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're like, yeah, he has been just driving to this warehouse for the last like 20, 30
he
years.
lives in an airplane hangar.
Yes, this has been his life.
Thing.
He's been living the TV show, where like everything's the same, and now it's time for the next movie.
Yeah. Like 35 years later. Sometimes I think about the end of this movie, the thanks for saving my life. It's what my dad would have done. And I was just like, dude.
Oh, dude, it's just
that you cannot get better than that.
We did not give enough credit to Joseph Krasinski whenever we did our main pod.
Krasinski? Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
We did not give enough credit to John Krasinski.
Jack Ryan?
For all of his like face looking at the cameras during Top Gun Maverick. No.
He might get a best director.
I think they should.
Yeah, he directed the fuck out of it.
He directed this in like such a beautiful way that like I can't really imagine anybody else doing this.
Imagine being like, all right, actor, you're gonna go up into this airplane with like 5, 6, 7 cameras pointed at you, and they're all going to be recording, and then we're just going to cut that into a movie.
It's also gaining a lot of ground because of the use of effects as opposed to the use of, practical effects, which is cool. It's becoming like a Reddit point of conversation of like, did you know it actually has more effects than fucking Avatar? Not actually.
He flew his plane, but not really.
Well, yeah, but that's cool because it looks entirely practical.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there is still so much of it that is it's practical mixed with the VFX.
Yeah.
It's really all found in the editing. It's really the editing that should get a shit ton of love for this, that they're able to cut all of these real clips of the actors acting in a real moving fucking plane and make it into a cohesive story.
And Tom is flying his plane, right? Like, do we know for sure?
No. He's not flying whenever he's in the jet. At the very end, whenever he's with Jennifer Connelly, he's actually flying that fucking plane. He's actually just out here flying his plane. But no, he's not.
They didn't let him. He wanted to.
And the Navy said no, thank you,
Absolutely
Mr. Tom.
Not.
I just got to give credit, Val Kilmer. That whole scene.
Yeah, it's time to let go.
I mean, talk about a scene where it's saying the least and just doing the most. That is just that whole sequence, especially if you know, with everything Val Kilmer in his own personal life, just absolutely gutting. Every time I see that scene, yeah, look at that.
I've got Tom here.
There's our buddy. Tommy. Here. There's Tommy. Jennifer Connelly is low key like one of the MVPs of this movie, especially like after rewatching this a bunch of times. Like, she's so goddamn good, down to her introduction, which the expert use by Kaczynski and team to use David Bowie's Let's Dance as you first meet Jennifer Connelly when her first performance was in Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm. She was being groomed to be the Goblin Queen.
Yeah. God,
should we cancel David Bowie?
No, Labyrinth rules so hard. Labyrinth fucks.
Lydia Tarr might have something to say about that.
It's sad that there's, now in retrospect, there's like this black star on his legacy.
God, should we tell Drew? No, she's so good. I think we've talked about in the past that Tom Cruise isn't exactly the easiest person to have chemistry with, especially not sexual chemistry.
Did you just call him a person? Wow.
Being. He's not the easiest being to have chemistry
cells.
with.
He doesn't emit pheromones. And I think it's a real hurdle for any actor trying to do that.
I mean, I think honestly, Emily Blunt is pretty good with it in fucking
Edge of Tomorrow.
Emily, but that's not really a sexual chemistry. It's more of just like a
partnership
kind of partnership thing. Yeah. He's good at doing that. He's great at that in the Mission Impossible movies. But not always in like a seeing this person as a realistic romantic partner for him. Rebecca Ferguson, shout out to her as well for being in that ballpark. But Jennifer Connelly, I think it's just that she just oozes, like she just has the oeuvre of all of the fucking charisma in the world. She's emitting so much charisma that I don't think that any person could not have synergy with her whenever they are on screen.
Well, she's coming from a place of like, she used to be the hottest person on earth, you know, so she has
Used
that.
to be?
She still is.
Yes.
Used to be?
Something happened. We can't act like it didn't.
Don't ask Bill Simmons.
Don't ask me.
And she's right behind Michelle Pfeiffer. I love Bill Simmons's. I love his outright confusion with why a hot woman didn't get more roles when like there like aren't movies for women. He's like, yeah, I feel like she had a better career at her.
We're at like hour 4.5. Can I insult his take where he's just like, Judy Foster, don't get it. And it's like, Bill, do you want to investigate that one?
She's gay, Bill. Is that why?
Is that why?
Maybe in the next movie we can get her daughter be played by Sydney Sweeney. I paid money to see that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Is she too young to be the love interest for Tom Cruise?
Top Gun Maverick.
What's your guys' take on Glenn Powell? Is Glenn Powell a little cutie pie?
Yeah, he
I
rocks.
love him. You gotta watch Set It Up on Netflix.
Everyone
I won't,
rocks
but thank you.
in this movie. Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone knocks it out of the park. This everything clicks together. Again, that scene where he does the run, when Maverick does the run in 2.5 minutes.
That's the best scene in the movie. 2 minutes and 15 seconds, baby.
Oh, it's fucking cinema, dude. Like, it's so good.
Best.
It's so fucking good.
It's so cool. This movie is just like, it seeps out cool from its fucking pores.
This movie is a commercial for composite shots.
You
know what I mean? Of like,
it's a commercial for
you can shoot a ground, you can shoot a plane. You can put those bitches together.
You know what's the worst
near the ground?
The single worst take I've seen this year is like Top Gun Maverick. It just makes me. It's such blatant military propaganda that like, how dare they come out here and have the Navy be the good guys in this story? I don't fucking care. Log off. Everybody just fucking log off for just 2 seconds and just shut off your brain. Just fucking enjoy something for once, and don't think about the goddamn political, like what it's trying to say here. Maybe it's just like, movies are good. Planes are fucking cool, guys. I don't know.
Go fast.
Playing fast, playing cool.
They put
Generic
so much.
bad guy.
They put so much effort into not making the bad guys from anywhere. They're all black.
It can play everywhere.
They didn't give them a language. They didn't give them anything.
It starts to reach one point whenever they land or they in the third act of the movie when they're like sneaking in, having to steal an enemy plane, where like you think you can like vaguely make out like some kind of a foreign language, and it cuts so fast that like it's just a blur of like, are those
don't you dare.
Symbols? What am I looking at there?
It's like if an American tried to write Russian, but without knowing it.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Masterpiece.
If you don't like this movie because of like the whatever stupid backlash, I have no thoughts for you.
Because of the Scientology people going missing, because of the wife of the president of Scientology going missing for 35 years.
It was like 12 years.
They're really close to finding her.
Apparently,
and it's going to be Tom.
Tom is going to find Shelley Miscavige.
Are we sure that Tom isn't Shelley Miscavige?
That's a good point.
That would check out.
He's going to find her and find that actually she committed suicide because of all the bad things that she had done outside of Scientology.
What if it's Dead Reckoning Part 2 is him finding Shelley Miscavige?
Oh my God. My brain is going to explode.
That's how Tom Cruise dies while making a movie. It's actually not from a set piece. It's from that. Which, by the way, quick plug too, if you haven't watched the 10 minutes behind the scenes of how they're making, shooting one of the the set pieces for Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Oh, hell fucking yes.
I've watched it multiple times.
Motorcycle?
Let's fucking go. Dude, Dead Reckoning Part 1, #1 most anticipated movie with a bullet on my list this year. Let's go. Tom Cruise, baby.
Top Gun Maverick is Hunter's #1. It's Drew's #6 and my #4. My #1, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best movie of the year. One of the best movies that we've gotten in years.
We did an ep.
It's so good, guys. The only thing I want to say about it is that like this movie has been out for like almost a whole year at this point, and the takes have just been this roller coaster, and it feels underrated at this point. Like it became such a big juggernaut that like people turned on it.
Yeah.
And there was like a huge fan base of people that like started coming after
fan base, honestly.
People who didn't like the movie. So it's gone through like this like massive laundry cycle, if you will, of takes.
Cool.
And now it is the front runner to win the Best Picture Oscar, which feels insane because I did go back.
We're underrating how wild of a thing that is, that this movie is a front runner for Best Picture.
I went back and listened to our review of it, and we were like, "Oh, I hope Michelle Kwan gets in. If we get one thing, it should be the editing. Maybe Ke Kwan will get in." And now Ke Kwan is like going to sweep every fucking award. This movie's incredible. I rewatched it. It holds up incredibly well. It has so much heart. It has so much love, so much tenderness, so much absurdity. It is a fucking insane comedic blast of just absurd fusion with drama and family tragedy. It is so perfect. It's so special. It's so good. I want to cry.
No,
it's so good, guys.
Rakakuni is important. Rakakuni matters. This movie it's so good. It's perfect. There really isn't a single thing that I would want to change about this movie. I can't believe that this is the front runner for Best Picture.
It feels insane.
I even the
first front runner in history to have someone being slapped in the face with 2 giant dildos
with hot dog hands and hot dog fingers as well. Don't forget that. It's so. I know that this is made by millennial filmmakers, but this is like kind of feels like the first modern movie in a way. This feels very of a Gen Z TikTok generation in that it is so fast paced.
Yeah. Internet
editing
brain.
It's internet brained, and these are by directors that, I mean, they aren't old by any means, but they are younger filmmakers, and you can kind of feel that energy to it. It's interesting listening to a bunch of podcasts and interviews, reading a bunch of interviews with Daniels, and the two of them have talked about, they're like, yeah, you know, we don't really watch a ton of movies. Most of me just like watch anime and play video games. And you can feel that in this movie, that it feels like it's edited like an anime. It feels like a video game.
The making of on the Blu-ray, amazing.
Yeah.
Must watch. Just the indie, like almost student film quality to this thing is just so palpable. Just like constant problem solving. Like you could tell that they had a great time making this, and it's exploding with heart.
I mean, the leading trivia fact on IMDb, which is verifiable and true, because I've looked into it, is that all of the VFX for this film was done by 9 people, including the 2 directors, with the majority of the shots being done by a core group of 5. Amazing. None of those guys went to school for VFX.
Yep.
They were all friends who taught themselves with tutorials they found online. For free.
It's an all-timer. It's an
that
instant
kind of movie.
Classic.
Yeah, it feels like a tutorial for how to make a movie that will capture young people while still being great.
Yes.
You don't have to sacrifice quality just to gain a new audience that isn't exactly into movies.
What you can accomplish with just your imagination. I was skimming through the script, the screenplay that A24 just made public, and just looking through it and just looking at it just like as words on a page, it just gets you thinking that like you can do it. Like whatever you think you can't do, there is a way to actually do it if you are creative enough, if you're imaginative enough, if you push yourself artistically enough, you can do it. This movie is not a massive production. It's very scrappy. It's very small. It's on the indie side of things. It's not like a micro budget.
It has a budget. It's one of the more expensive A24 movies ever. But
it can be done. It can be done. And this movie, it makes you have hope. It makes you have like the feeling that like even the craziest ideas can happen. And done in a way that feels like, you know, Michelle Yeoh is a fucking legendary movie star.
Yeah.
Like this movie isn't made with non-actors. Like actual talented people gravitated towards this story and brought it to life. It's special. It's fucking incredible.
A side effect to this movie is that, at least for me, this movie killed every dumb fucking Marvel multiverse movie. Because you know what's not interesting after watching Everything Everywhere All at Once is like, ooh, what if it's a multiverse where New York has like freaking bushes growing out the side of the buildings?
Whoa.
Dude, cool. Like this movie is actually the most well-realized version of this new era of sci-fi that is kind of multiverse obsessed.
It kills a lot of things. Because it is like you said, because of their backgrounds and what they're into. Like it kills, I think, at least for me, it kills the like Rick and Morty style like positive nihilism ethos of like, you know, no one exists on purpose. No one belongs anywhere. Want to watch TV? Like
that's this whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it does it so much better than any Rick and Morty.
Exactly. Like there are certain themes and elements like that to me do feel like, you know, maybe like 6 years old, but this movie like completes their arc. Like this movie is the best possible version of so many different things that have been floating around and sort of defining a generation. You know what I mean? Like this ends it. It's the definitive take on on those feelings. Exactly. It just it rocks so fucking hard. It's undeniable. Like whatever hesitations you might have about the movie, it just keeps fucking powering through at you. You know,
and then it hits you.
Yeah, it hits you with pace and style and editing and punch and
the emotion.
The writing combined with the performances, combined with the heart that went in on both ends.
So good.
Like the people that made this movie care about the movie, and you can feel that. Like it hits you. It hits you from a lot of different directions all at once, and I think that it's going to be remembered as like the defining movie of the year.
It's Everything Everywhere.
I'm still kind of hesitant towards it winning Best Picture just because
a lot could happen.
It will mostly because of the ranked balloting system that the Oscars use. Yeah. Because I think that
the olds might be against it.
I think a lot of people that are like 80 are going to be like, I can't keep up with this.
It's too much.
Like I cannot physically keep up with this. Weird. I don't get this. I'm just going to put Fabelmans in at number 2. Like it's just going to be one of those things where it's like, and I mean, if Fabelmans wins Best Picture, like, oh darn, it's another great movie. Yeah. Like that's not a terrible thing to happen. As long as Elvis doesn't win Best Picture. Speaking of, should we get to our honorable mentions?
That's number 1. Everything Everywhere all at once.
Great.
It's also Drew's 2 and your 2.
Yeah.
So consensus number 1. If we're to do like a weighted ranking, that's gonna be number 1.
All right. Hit us with some honorable mentions.
Quickly, my number 11 and the one that I cut right before we recorded here is Armageddon Time. Shout out to James Gray, who also his last movie, Ad Astra, was number 11 on my 2018 ballot.
I know. He's gutted about this, Hunter.
Dude,
how are you letting him down like this again?
James Gray, I'm so sorry. Friend of the pod, Colin, I'm so sorry. I love this movie. Like, I fucking love this movie. This deserves to be in my top 10.
I know.
I just couldn't figure out a spot for it.
I think it's a harder sell.
Have you seen this?
No. I think it's a harder sell than like Fabelmans, though, for example, because it's, I don't know. It's easy to view what you hear about it very cynically. I know it's
on
great,
the surface, it's very Oscar baity. On the surface, it's like, oh, it's about a Jewish boy like coming like me.
Yeah, and it's
like
also like a, you know, like, oh, I saw racism when I was a baby.
Yeah, exactly. Like on its surface, it is very Oscar baity. And there's so much more nuance to that.
I totally believe that.
It explores like this idea of the pockets of classism, how they're like, you can be the richest kid at the poor school and then suddenly you change districts or you go to a private school and you are the poorest kid at the rich school.
Mm-hmm.
And like how that completely changes how people look at you, how you're like just everybody in your life treats you, how you treat your old friends. It tackles all that so incredibly well. One of the best casts of the year with Bank Sherpetta, Anne Hathaway, Jeremy Strong, our guy, Jalen Webb, I shouted out earlier. And of course, Anthony Hopkins just giving another fucking unbelievable late stage Anthony Hopkins performance. Yeah, incredible. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, my favorite documentary of the year. Just absolutely
still haven't seen that.
Beautiful movie. So good. Shows about the life of Nan Golden and then specifically her work now focusing on the opioid crisis after her own struggles with opioid addiction. Incredibly powerful stuff. Highly recommend. After Sun.
Mm-hmm.
I need to revisit it because to be honest, I really admired it more than I connected to it, and I loved it.
This is the movie that the critics have been going goo goo gaga over.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's in my top 20.
It's number 15 for me. Bones and All, which I thought was going to make your list, Drew, to be honest.
Well, because I messaged our group chat like pretty early into the movie, and I was like, I'm so into this movie, and then the rest of the movie happens, and you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, it
Nevertheless,
it starts hotter than it finishes.
It starts red hot.
Yeah,
I love Bones and All.
Bones and All so rules.
It
was
in my top 20. for my number 10
It's really
spot.
cool. It doesn't coalesce into a top movie, and it's frustrating because you know it could.
Yeah,
you know it could. Watching it, it's like, man, this could be so good, and it's still good, but damn, like he just didn't quite get there with it.
3 other movies, real quick. Turning Red, a beautiful movie. Really, really love that movie. Just haven't rewatched it recently. Otherwise, it could be a little bit higher on my list. Pearl. Mia Goth is a fucking movie star. Holy shit. Watch X first.
So
she's really good.
So that's why I didn't watch Pearl. So you should watch X first.
Yeah, because Pearl is a prequel to X.
I know, but I didn't know if it was like really required watching.
So a lot of people like X more than Pearl. Personally, I like Pearl more because I liked X, but I think that Mia Goth kind of takes over and Pearl is just kind of a showcase. There's a monologue that Mia Goth gives in Pearl where it's like, holy shit, you got it. Oh my God. Super excited for the 3rd installment of Ty West's trilogy with her. Maxine coming out this year.
I'll have to see both.
Finally, well, 2 quick things. Women talking. Because I think women talking is important. And she said, because I think she should say things.
Incredible.
Actually, I did really enjoy women talking, and she said,
Hunter, actions speak louder than words. I didn't watch those movies. I drafted them, honey.
He's getting all the points.
I'm an ally.
You did not watch them, though. You did not go to the theaters and promote your movie that you drafted.
Why would I listen to some fucking bitches
He picked up the screener and said, no, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie, are you going to say about how 3,000 Years of Longing just missed your list? Or
I love that movie.
Movie does rock. It's in my top 30.
The ending is atrocious. It sputters. It's hardcore at the end.
Shaky.
But overall, it is. I mean, it's a George Miller movie about Idris Elba as a fucking genie in a bottle. It's amazing. Tilda Swinton, shout out. Like, it visually stunning. Hell? It's so good. It's so good. It's yeah.
Shout out to The Northman, the best movie that I will never watch ever again.
Guys, I was so close to putting The Northman on my list.
I'm happy.
I was this fucking close.
Nicole Kidman was on my long list for Best Supporting Actress for her one scene.
I almost cheated and did the North Batman, the Bat Northman.
I would not have.
I would have said you're a fucking coward and pick your movie.
That would be like when you put fucking Portrait of a Lady on fire.
Yeah, like 4.5 years after it came out.
Robert Eggers is a fucking genius.
Ernie, remember whenever you drafted The Godfather as your best movie of 2017?
Alexander Skarsgård is an animal in this movie.
He's a freak.
He's so good. This movie is incredible. It definitely suffers from him not having final cut and having to like be at the whim of the studio.
That was my biggest note on this.
Yeah.
That feels it kind of gets away from Eggers a little bit. Should have given him the Chazelle treatment.
Yeah.
Do his thing.
What could go wrong?
A couple stray mentions.
The Northman flopped too, so who fucking cares? Might as well give him a blank check.
Hey man, he's still Bobby the Eggman. There are some transcendent moments in this movie. There's no other movie in which Ethan Hawke and Willem Dafoe drink mushroom tea and fart everywhere.
I'm gonna fact check you on that. I bet I can find one more.
Remember the behind the scenes of the Lighthouse where actually Ethan Hawke just
wanders in.
Yeah.
Got to shout out Pinocchio, the Guillermo del Toro, not
Papa.
the Pauly Shore.
We'll talk about that one momentarily. Be on my own.
And then just a quick little if you're just looking for like a standard like down the middle movie, The Woman King. It checks all the boxes of
very
just like
enjoyable.
Classic
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Classic. Just like
I'd go 8.
Would you stop rating women on a fucking scale?
A Woman King, nonetheless. Jeez.
Woman King is really good. I like that. I like Gina Prince Bythewood.
Adam Sandler and Hustle.
Happy for you.
Shout out to Danny for recommending this way back in the day. This is on Netflix.
My best actor ballot goes to Juancho Hernan Gomez, NBA player.
This is a great movie.
I didn't watch it.
It has some awesome montages, like just sports movie moments. And wee woo, wee woo, wee woo.
Drones matter. Drones are important.
Ambulances exist in LA. Ambulance. Great job.
Speaking of best viewing experiences of the year, watching that with you guys in the theater,
of
people who were not on the same wavelength.
having a drink at Bar Louie right before going into seeing Ambulance was great. That was a good choice.
The old guy near us moved.
Yeah, he was not ready for our commentary with each other while watching Ambulance.
He just got up and moved.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were watching the fine art of Ambulance. Guy.
I am submitting this film for some special awards at
Let's
the Wabamies.
I'm ready for it.
Wow.
So,
we should make a Michael Bay category for the Wabamies.
Oh, honey.
Let's go.
I already did.
Wait, real quick. I did want to give a shout out to one special thing it would have made my list for my favorite documentaries of the year, but I learned that this was not eligible based on its release, how it was released. But shout out to Kevin Perjurer, also known as the guy who made the Defunct Land YouTube channel.
Nice.
Released a documentary this year on the Disney Channel's theme, a full-length 1.5 hour long documentary, and it is incredible. It's so good. I really, really loved what he did here. It kind of turns into a documentary about like looking inward and am I a real artist if I'm just making stuff that I'm going to fucking release for free on YouTube that I put so much time and effort into, but if it's just going to be diminished as like a little YouTube video, does that count as documentary filmmaking? And meanwhile, Kevin's been out here just doing incredible research, doing all the work that it takes to release a documentary feature for years on his channel. So shout out to him, shout out to this documentary, and shout out to Defunct Land.
Yeah, it's like television quality YouTube videos, like in terms of like the research done. But the difference is that he has zero restrictions on what he's allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
So he talks about things that Disney would not want you to talk about.
Yeah.
It's incredible content. I don't even give a fuck about Disney. I don't care about rides, but I watch his videos. Good stuff. Things that have not been mentioned. I watched Crimes of the Future. You guys made fun of me for watching it.
I would never make fun of you for watching a Cronenberg movie. This is regrettably my biggest blind spot of the year. Sad about it.
I really enjoyed it. I was telling you guys off mic earlier that
surgery is the new sex.
Yeah.
You were telling us this.
You're telling us that Viggo Mortensen is important. That he doesn't just eat a whole pizza by folding it in half.
Viggo fucking slays in this movie. He does a lot of squatting in black streetwear, which is cool.
Cool.
God, I want to see this. I need to see this.
It rocks. It seems like almost like a 90s cult hit that you would find on like Shudder or something. Like it's very like Nine Inch Nails core aesthetic and like sonically. It also I was telling you guys, it almost reminds me of Blade Runner tonally, where it's just like it's a very like slow burn like discussion about interesting future themes, and like it doesn't really coalesce into like a humongous like set piece or anything. It just like it's that, and that's like a fun watch. It's fun to watch. I enjoyed it a lot. The Menu is a good movie. It's just not a great movie. And that's fine. And
it's a solid watch.
If you look on IMDb right now, that is the number 2 most popular movie. You know what number 1 is? The Pale Blue Eye.
No way. That's not a real movie.
What?
Don't believe that.
That's a real thing.
Where's The Good Nurse?
Let's see here. Let's control F.
People are clamoring for The Good Nurse.
Nurse. It doesn't exist. It's not ever in there. It's nowhere.
Support your farm to table local comedies with Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Did you see
Happy for you.
Daniel Radcliffe won a Critics' Choice Award?
Good.
For like what? For best like Roku original actor?
It was like TV movie made for TV or something.
Okay, that's fine. We can give him that.
Good for him. I didn't like Bullet Train.
Are we now in the movies that you didn't like? Oh, couple most disappointing, and then we can kind of finish this up.
One other I want to talk about is it's extremely thorny to talk about right now, but This Place Rules by Channel 5. Andrew Callahan is.
Oh, is this 2022 or 23?
Yeah, it technically is 2022.
Okay.
The movie disappointed me. Pre-allegations, just because it seemed like an opportunity to stop editing the way that they do on YouTube, to stop relying on like extreme like smash cuts and just like jumpy stuff, and to like really just sit in a scene and a location. They do that a couple times, but not as nearly as much as I wanted. Also, during the January 6th riots, Andrew had COVID and literally couldn't be there. So everything
that the movie's leading up to,
the climax of the movie, and like any documentary, you can sort of like have a workaround there. There are a lot of documentaries that like have that structure of like, and then it didn't happen, but like it's still great. It's still good if you just like the YouTube channel. It's just like, this was an opportunity to rise above that, and it didn't happen. And now Andrew is an abuser.
Yes, that's not great.
So congrats, fam.
Hey, he did an apology video.
Cool.
He's listening. He's learning.
Real quick, pour one out for Lightyear, a movie that sucks. It's a bad movie.
To infinity and beyond.
A movie that's literally for no one. And then, Thor: Love and Thunder. That sucked, huh? Let's go back. Let's end how we started. Let's talk about movies that sucked.
We have to wrap it up.
Why?
Can I talk more about Halloween Ends?
We're now at the point where part 2 is about to be double the length of part 1.
Let me talk about the first like half hour of Spiderhead.
We have to stop.
Can you give me a scene by scene breakdown of Spiderhead?
We have the Wabammies next week. We're gonna do a full final bow wrap around the year. You can add categories for all these dishonorable mentions.
Can I make the Corey Cunningham Award for?
Absolutely, yes. So that ends Listomania proper. Next week is the Wabammies, where we will have a category for our top first time viewings of 2022.
Just a category, for fuck's sake.
Yes, just a category.
Man,
so we can
consolidating
fold it.
it down.
We
Okay.
will fold it into the award show. It is a special category with a special name that I will reveal next week, and it'll be.
I love
fun
shooting
time.
shooting from the hip on these awards.
I
don't
gonna
do any prep. I just kind of go for it.
I'm gonna put King of the Hill on my list for the third year.
You
in a
have
row.
to. You have to. That is now a requirement. That is now a requirement. You have to mention it. It's like, hey, there's this little show I watched for the first time.
And really give it like a good 3 minutes
and
before
Ernie,
someone tells me.
you have to give it like a full an earnest like. Oh, and
it looks
it's
like
the
you
30 running streak for
Yeah.
your first time.
Ernie whispering in my ear, and I'm like George Bush finding out about 9/11. He's like, "You said that shit last year."
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate, review, subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know what you thought of our favorite movies of 2022. Stay tuned for the Wabammies. Stay tuned for more special episodes and the return to the Robin Williams series. Stick around. Visit WeBoughtAMic.net to become a donor and sign up for every episode updated in your email inbox. Thank you, beautiful donors, for donating. We will be back. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.